and I'm showing it's 9 o'clock, and it's Clearwater, Florida, and if somebody would like to get coffee, I'll wait, but otherwise, I think we'll go ahead and get started if we can, Mr. Director. I think we got a great meeting today with a report on advertising and strategic plan, and it'll take some time, so we'll progress if I may. I'd like to call the order, and I'd like to do roll call, starting with Phil over there, please, and come around, identify yourself.
Phil Henderson, Starlight Cruises.
Oh, sorry. You good? Trisha Rodriguez, Traffic Expo Tours in the Clearwater Ferry.
Ken Welch, Mayor of St. Petersburg.
Michael Zoss, County Attorney's Office.
Good morning, everybody. Steve Hayes with Visit St. Pete Clearwater.
Russ Kimball, Sheraton Sand Key Resort, Clearwater Beach.
Frank Hibbard, Mayor of Clearwater.
Good morning, Doreen Moore, TRS Travel Resort Services Vacation Rentals.
Good morning, Chuck Prather, the Birchwood, beautiful downtown St. Petersburg.
Thank you. I need approval of the minutes of April 20th. That's in your packet.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Next, we have public comment, and we have one participant who would be requesting. Somewhere in the audience, Neil?
Excuse me,
Please
Mr.
identify yourself and the purpose, and I
I'm
believe you
sorry.
have 3 minutes to,
I'm sorry, can you just clarify who did the second on that motion? I have heard a few voices.
I think it was
Okay,
Doreen.
thank you.
Yep, sorry. Go ahead, Neil.
Thank you. Good morning, members of the board. My name is Neil Cosentino. I'm a member of a small public interest think tank. We're self-funded, public interest, and I'm a retired Air Force pilot. And my mission today is introduce you to what we call a Green Unicorn tourism project, which we hope you've received the letter on that, which outlines why we as a community should repurpose the Howard Franklin Bridge. And there's a lot of detail in that letter. If you haven't received it, I'll send another copy. But I think when we look at this project as something unique and different, iconic, we look at 3 wins. The community wins, heads and beds win, for example. We taxpayers win because there's $335 million on the table on this project. Where do you come up with a number like that? Well, $35 million is set aside to demolish the bridge, and $300 million is the value of the bridge. And well, of course, we're not calculating downstream lost opportunity costs, which would be significant. And our planet Spaceship Earth wins because we're getting involved in green tourism. And once again, we'd be leadership role on that. But part of that letter was 27 different benefits, who wins, if we repurpose the bridge. So 35 million, we win there. Saves 300 million in public asset. We get income because we want to put a solar voltaic array on the bridge, 60 foot wide, 2.5 miles long, and sell clean energy to our communities. We increase the green footprint. We decrease our carbon footprint. We increase our resiliency. We increase our sustainability. We recover rainwater, prevent water pollution. We create a shade-covered pedestrian, bike, and trail, pedestrian and bikes. We establish an alternative route. Should there be an accident on the bridges, this bridge could be used. It's a new business model for the production and sale of green energy. Be used for a test bed for new wind generators, for example. We provide clean energy jobs. We develop a clean kilowatt currency system. Thank you very much. Are there any questions? There are more sir.
Yeah, I apologize in advance for my ignorance. Are you suggesting that we do not demolish the bridge, leave it standing, and do some of these things that you've just mentioned?
Exactly, because the day that the new 8-lane bridge opens, that's the day they'll spend $35 million to destroy a perfectly good bridge in the sense that it's good for 40-ton vehicles the day it closes. That's multiple 30-ton vehicles on each span, dynamic load. So if you limit the load limit to people and bicycles and the solar array, we're talking about 4 tons. So 4 into 40 goes 10, so you could say that the bridge, you know, if you want to extrapolate, the bridge would be good for another 10 times the lifespan. If that, I mean, I'm not an engineer on this, but the engineers should weigh in on it and verify that the bridge would be safe for a very, very long time. I hope that answers your question.
It does. A follow-up, though, is this a decision by the Florida Department of Transportation, or is it more of a local decision?
Well, I think as the mayor mayor, I believe, was a commissioner when we saved the Gandy Bridge. A little think tank was involved in that. I think was also involved in getting Florida for the first time in the Olympic bid. I don't know if we bid on the Olympics, but we did help do that, make that happen. But the project is one that I'm here to ask for an endorsement. In other words, is it good for our community to repurpose the bridge? And hopefully that would be, and we're talking about green tourism, we're talking about green energy, we're talking about green mobility, we're talking about a lot of green programs. So we're gonna look good when we do this, because it's nothing like it. The only bridge that we know of that has a solar rhetoric canopy is a bridge in London. It's a railroad bridge, and that's a very narrow river. So that's the only one we know of. So when I say iconic unicorn green tourism, that's exactly what we mean. And we hope after we satisfy everyone's questions, and specifically the engineering question, then we hope your council would endorse it. Now, one scenario would be is who owns the bridge and how is that dealt with? Well, one scenario would be both counties lease the bridge from FDOT 7 for $1 a year for 50 years. And then the counties sublease the bridge to an independent cooperative who would install the array. Very similar to a public-private partnership used by Hillsborough County Aviation Authority and TECO. I don't know if you know this, but they installed a mega canopy cover on the top parking level, 6th level of their parking garage. So they're developing clean energy off a parking garage. We would develop clean energy off a bridge. So that's, hope that answered the question.
Yeah, I just, do we know whose call this is? Is it, who gets to make that decision?
Well, it's public property, and it's owned by FDOT 7. So FDOT 7 has to say, obviously, has to be involved. So it was the same, well, it was a little bit different on the Gandy Bridge because the Gandy Bridge was not a federal interstate bridge. But we feel that if the government goes to FDOT 7, they'd be hard pressed to, to demolish the bridge, let's put it that way. But let their engineers take a look at it, because the only issue, I think, is the longevity of the bridge. You know, the structural, and that has to be settled, because if you're going to get a loan to put the solar array on it, the banks will want to know how long the bridge will last. So that is the key question, but I think, I'm not a civil engineer, but I think our country is well known for our pragmatism and common sense. So I don't think it was civil engineers that crossed the United States and built this country. It was people like us who just used common sense and got the job done. Are there any other questions?
Thank you. Any other questions for Neil?
Thank you very much.
Steve?
Neil, if you wouldn't mind, I don't think any of us have received that letter. If you could make sure that Liz gets your information, and that way we can
Thank you very
forward
much.
it to everybody.
I appreciate that.
I received it at the city. So,
I'll send another one though for the record.
All right, thank you. Any other comments among us? All right, next on the agenda we have is the advertising promotion report. Ms. Katie?
Before Katie gets situated, we moved some things around on the agenda. Katie and her team are knee-deep right now in production shoot off of new creative. And so they started on Monday, I believe, and are finishing up the end of this week. So the weather gods have played well with us, so that was good. And I understand we're getting some great shots. But anyway, she wanted to move up in the agenda so that they could head back out and finish some things today. So Katie, I look forward to hearing about Unwind to Be Kind.
Sure. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Yes, as Steve mentioned, we are out doing our photo shoot this week. Carmen and I have been traveling with the crew and getting some great stuff, and look forward to sharing that with you, those new assets, in here in a couple months. But I'm here to talk to you today about our Unwind and Be Kind campaign recap. If you attended our National Travel and Tourism Week event last month, you would have heard a little bit more about this, but I wanted to share it with this group here today as well, the efforts that we did for this spring. So if you remember last year, we had a great spring campaign. Really, it was coming out of COVID, and we just really wanted to communicate to visitors and residents about traveling to the destination, being kind. And so we put our heads together and we said, how can we do something again this year that kind of sends that same message, but adds some other goals to the campaign. So the main goal was here to support our local workforce and community and ensure travelers have a wonderful experience in St. Pete Clearwater, and to take care of our destination. So we set out to remind travelers to practice patience and to be kind, while encouraging preservation and sustainability for our environment. So how did it come to life? So together, collaborating with the agency, we concepted a campaign with those goals that I mentioned. We wanted to find ways that we could integrate partners here in the destination, have an extension with our team out in the destination, working with our activations department, Craig, and our brand ambassadors, ways we could tie in our media relations and Mackenzie on our team, and really promote some social media and press about our activities. Working with Jimmy on our social media to enhance our message across all of our social media channels. With our paid advertising, we posted some out-of-home advertising. And then with our event activations, I mentioned working with our brand ambassador team, so Craig and then Kristen on our staff to activate with our partnership with Keep Pinellas Beautiful. So really, all of our different departments here in our office kind of got together and really set out to see how we could all work together to build out this campaign. So as I mentioned, we worked with Keep Pinellas Beautiful, and we have a relationship with them already. Kristen works with them really closely on our team to develop beach cleanups. And so we said, how can we get with you guys and create a series of beach cleanups here in the destination for 6 weeks, promoting visitors who want to come to the destination and help give back. And then also working with Hippo, one of our local vendors, to help reward people for helping out and cleaning up the environment. And then we wanted to engage a hometown influencer. So you'll meet him here in just a minute. He's got a great personality. Trash Colin is his handle on TikTok and Instagram. His real name is Colin Donaldson. He is a Reddington Shores resident. And through our agency, they have a tool that they can go in and find some different influencers and their reach, and they landed on Colin, who has 1.4 million followers on TikTok, and he is an eco-activist. So his mission is really to encourage people to take care of the environment and where we live, and so his message really tied in really well with our goals of the campaign to help give back to our community. And so I wanted to share this slide. Last week, we had an agency partner summit here in St. Pete, Clearwater. We had about 30 of our agency staff from BVK, Miles Partnership, our destination analysts, and all talking about our strategy for the next year. And so Miles Partnership presented this slide, and I said, this would be great to add to this presentation because it talks about TikTok, which is what Colin really focuses on with his channels. So just some notes on TikTok. It is the #1 most downloaded app in the world in January 2021. It has 1.2 billion monthly active users. Over 90% of users use the app daily. So it is the next booming social media platform, and it worked really well with our campaign and with Colin. So it's through his Colin's channels, we were able to amplify our message and reach his followers on his channels about what we're doing here in the destination. So we got some great social media posts on it and some nice coverage. Here is a video. Hopefully this will play.
Visit St. Pete Clearwater, Keep Pinellas Beautiful, and myself are hosting a beach cleanup every week this month. As part of our Unwind and Be Kind campaign, we're giving tourists and local residents the tools and opportunities to be kind to our beaches while they unwind. Every week on a new beach with the same mission. This is awesome. Let's go. We're even giving out free ice pops after every event. What flavor did you get?
I got the watermelon hibiscus.
Cheers.
Yeah, man.
So make sure you visit unwindandbekind.com to sign up and learn more. Can't wait for next week.
So that was just a little brief recap of the campaign, and you can see Colin's personality, and he shared that on his social media channels, really with what we were doing here. And through our PR teams, we were able to get some great media coverage on this, News Channel 8, Spectrum News, and then the Tampa Bay Times front page there on one of their Wednesday editions, which is one of their print editions. We got front page coverage talking about Colin and his platform and how we are working together with him to help keep the destination clean. And then wanted to share our community and visitor participation. So working with Keep Pinellas Beautiful, they created a platform where people could sign up. So we had 6 cleanups from April 1st to May 5th. And so people could go on and sign up. And the first cleanup we did was on Sand Key Park, and these 2 visitors, Lisa and Sandy, were visiting from New York, and I was talking with them, and they were staying at the Serrata. And mind, this cleanup is taking place on Sand Key Park. And they were telling us that they were on our website, wanted to participate in the beach cleanup, took an Uber from the Serrata to the Sand Key just so that they could participate in our beach cleanup. And so that, to me, it just gives me chills, just that thought of them wanting to get back to the destination when they visit. And I know that Lisa and Sally are not the only one, Sandy, are not the only ones that do that. So we want to continue this partnership with Keep Pinellas Beautiful and offer these opportunities for our visitors here in the destination that want to enjoy these activities while they're on vacation. And as I mentioned, we also had some out-of-home advertising, so welcoming those visitors when they arrive at the airport and also in billboards around key arteries, just really helping share this message of our Unwind and Be Kind campaign. So results. So like I said, we had 6 actually there were 5 beach cleanups. 1 cleanup we actually did in St. Pete at Straw Park. And we collected 407 pounds of litter throughout the campaign. Colin posted 14 social posts, reaching 55,000 fans on his platforms. We had 21 media placements, 3 radio interviews, 80 million media impressions, and my favorite, hundreds of thank you comments. So on our social media, a lot of people were expressing gratitude for the work that we were doing to share this message and educate. Residents were glad that we were educating visitors, and visitors were, excited to participate in this. So those were the results of our campaign. We look forward to continuing to see how we can make the Unwind and Be Kind continue forward with some different outreaches. One of those is our life-size Adirondack chair, large, that we're branding with our Unwind and Be Kind message. It will travel from Johns Pass, St. Pete Pride, and then St. Pete Pier. Our activations department is working on this. But we're going to brand it with our Unwind and Be Kind. There's going to be a code on the chair that takes us back to our Unwind and Be Kind website that has tips on how visitors can participate and visit responsibly and things that they can do, and then also information on future cleanups that we'll have on there. So that was our campaign. I can answer any questions, and then I would like to introduce Colin. So if there's any questions about the campaign, I'd be happy to answer them for you. Great. Well, okay, so yeah, I'd love to introduce Colin Donaldson for you. Like I mentioned, he is a local Redington Shores resident, and he was great to partner with on this campaign. His energy is emphatic. It's amazing, and I'm so excited to introduce you to Colin right now.
Hello, good morning, members of the board, and happy Wednesday. So I guess we're just going to jump into it. My name is Colin. I don't go by Trash, but it is my my TikTok handle. So this is kind of where we started. First of all, being born and raised here is Pinellas County. Born in St. Pete, grew up in Seminole. It's just been incredible to be embraced in this way by the county for also bringing this message and then having this be amplified throughout. Same messaging throughout. So this is a video.
Pro tip, if you plan on visiting Florida, spring is the best time to do so. That's my opinion. The weather is amazing this time of year. But as we welcome you to the home of America's best beaches, we just want to remind you that while you unwind, also be kind to other travelers, our Florida residents, and the beaches themselves. Visit St. Pete Clearwater and I are stoked to launch the Unwind and Be Kind spring campaign. Together, we have organized a series of weekly beach cleanups from April 1st to May 4th. And you're invited to sign up for one of these cleanups held by Visit St. Pete Clearwater, Keep Pinellas Beautiful, and myself. All you gotta do is check out our site. Now, if you can't make one of our cleanups, that's okay. This site has a handful of tips on how you can unwind and be kind anywhere in the world. We are super excited about this spring season, and we can't wait to see you out there.
So that was the first video that we made. That was the activation piece. Everything else following that was like showing footage of us on the beach picking up trash and then spreading the message of be kind and unwind. And this is how I became Trash Colin. Again, like I said, I grew up in St. Pete, but now I'm living on Redington Shores. And I started just picking up trash one day. I was working at Suncoast Water Sports on St. Pete Beach, renting out jet skis, doing the cabanas and all that stuff. And it just blew my mind. People would come to the beach and be like, this is my favorite beach in the world. I love bringing my family here. And then I would literally watch them leave the beach with all their trash in the sand, and it just didn't make sense to me. So I started picking up the trash, posting it on Instagram. All my friends were like, yo, this is really cool. You should keep doing this. So then I eventually found TikTok, and I kind of started this challenge of like, how many days can I do this? So when I tried to go for 30 days, 30 turned into 100, and now eventually I went to 500 days, and then now I started over. So I'm just doing this every day. And then on top of that, the toy box conception was like finding all these plastic beach toys on the beach every day and kind of coming up with ideas, first identifying why they were getting there. People are flying in and they don't have ways to fly those toys back home, so they're just literally leaving them there. So I built a box out of refurbished wood that I found laying around the city, put up a toy box, and it's actually right on the Long Pier on Redington Shores, and it's working really well. Some days it'll be full, some days it'll have nothing. So with that, it's telling me that people are taking these toys off of the beach and bringing them home and playing with them, which I think is awesome. And that's my mission statement too, bringing a fresh and optimistic take on environmentalism to a whole new generation, kind of taking what already exists, the messaging it, and making it more fun, making it more accessible to kids, and kind of getting them into this, idea of like, let's be more sustainable, let's be more eco-friendly. So this is really fun too for me. The future of eco travel and tourism. Stepping into this campaign, Unwind and Be Kind campaign, was really, really fun for me because, like I said, being born and raised here, I care about this so much. So like the future of where we're headed with this, I would love to see is treating every day as if it's Earth Day, you know, and it's as easy as picking up trash, as easy as just bringing one reusable bag. And then it's not a trend though. So really focusing on how can we commit to our planet and really stay committed to picking up trash, making it fun, doing campaigns like Unwind and Be Kind, but also consistently doing this and coming back to this messaging, not just having it be a fun one-off event. And then, as we all know, St. Pete Clearwater is a hot spot, especially like in Florida. People are coming straight to here. So this would be a great opportunity to kind of carve out the first kind of steps of how we could be, you know, America's green destination. We could be the most sustainable city, the most sustainable county. And that would bring even more, you know, eco-travel and tourism. Also, midway through the Unwind to Be Kind campaign, someone said the word voluntourism, and I thought that was so cool. I had never heard that before, but that's exactly what this whole campaign was, getting people to volunteer while they're also traveling and, you know, visiting. So this is kind of like how we got involved and how we got started. The perfect matchup between Keep Pinellas Beautiful, Visit St. Pete, and then myself was just, we were just a well-oiled machine. We all hit our certain pockets to where, like, we know, especially with Keep Pinellas Beautiful, they know where they're at and what is recyclable. They know what type of trash you're going to find in what part of the city. So having that knowledge, and then also stepping into things like to push us further into an ecotourism destination is, you know, adopting things that are practices that may, like, for instance, COVID-19 rose a bunch of sustainable practices entirely on accident, but it did work. Like the elimination of a lot of single-use plastics, and then the room cleanings for hotels, paper menus were gone. So there's just things that came from that I think would be great to, you know, kind of keep moving forward with. And then just getting involved in your community, which I think this is a great, perfect example of like getting involved and getting the community involved as well. Yeah, so Trash Colin is my name. It's been so awesome. Thank you guys for having me speak. And if there's any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer any.
I'm going to call on Frank first, but I'd like to give him a round of applause
Thank you.
for his enthusiasm.
Appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Colin, that's awesome. Frank?
Thank you for all you're doing. It's
Thank
really
you.
innovative. I love the toy box on the beach. We did a 2-week cleanup in the city of Clearwater last October and collected, unfortunately, 4 tons.
I heard about that. Yeah, that's wild.
And so my question is, I love the cleanups. I'm enthusiastic about that. I don't want to have them.
Exactly.
So can you talk a little bit about ideas? You know, I think we need to do a better idea of engaging our guests.
Absolutely, and I think that's a massive point, because when I started, at first I thought I was doing so much by just picking up the trash, and then eventually I realized that I'm just kind of sweeping up the after party. I'm not really making, so Keep Pinellas Beautiful, half of their focus is not only picking up trash, but it's also litter prevention. How do we prevent that litter from even showing up there in the first place? That's a lot through like raising awareness, educating people on how that trash ends up there, or showing them their habits of where you might find a situation of that litter being there. So yeah, turning a corner and instead of cleaning up, turning more of an educational and litter prevention way, I feel like in the long run, we'll see not 4 tons of trash on Clearwater Beach, hopefully.
Is that something, I mean, staff has been thinking and talking about? I've been challenging our staff, obviously, to come up with more ideas, some signage. It's frustrating, to say the least.
And Mayor, I'm glad that you said that, because in our 2-day marketing retreat, that was one of the things we talked about. What happens next on this? And, you know, we sat around and looked at, you know, what kind of messaging could we do? And, you know, as an example, is there something branded that you have at the beach, and beach being the 35 miles of beaches, that talks about the trash pickup? Just the positive reinforcement of taking your trash, putting it someplace, having the signs, and then at the same time you have that out with the guests that are visiting. It's in our content. It's like you're almost preaching to them before you get here, and then you're encouraging them while they're here. And then I think the other thing is, and again, you know, from the beach aspect, you know, there's the municipalities and the county do a great job, I think, in cleaning the beach. it's like, I think as you showed me when we did the Clearwater one, it's not on the beach, it's the road off the beach. It's the 2 roads off the beach. And so how do we do more of that? And it's just that responsible visiting. And so how do we make a bigger presence? So we're already looking at those kind of things.
There was something that came up during the Sugar Sand Festival, which I thought was really innovative. I don't know if you guys saw, but the alligator sculpture that they made, that was a cool way to show visually, like, this could have ended up in the sand. And that's still, like, not necessarily keeping it from getting there in the first place. But I think maybe if we're, like, St. Pete Clearwater, we're a very, like, artistic town. So I feel like if we incorporate that into our, mission, I think it'll work smoothly in that way. So I would love to come up with ideas, though. I agree. I feel like it is extremely frustrating going out there and seeing that stuff, especially after doing a cleanup and picking up 4 tons, and then you go out there next weekend and it's right back.
Question over here from Mayor Ken.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. What a great way to start the morning. I was looking for Katie. I see she's behind the pole here, but thank you for the message. And I know it's not the direct message, but the unwind and be kind, I think, is especially something we need to be talking about. So
Absolutely.
I just love the message. 1.4 million followers.
I wish dollars.
I'm extremely jealous of 1.4 million
Let's
followers.
Let's collab.
But just thank you for your passion, and you can tell when somebody's authentic, and you
Thank
definitely
you.
are.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
You started in St. Pete and then Seminole. What high school did you go to?
Osceola.
Okay.
Let's go.
Still love you. You're good. What led you to go from Instagram to TikTok?
Yeah, so TikTok, I'm glad that we threw that slide in there because I started around summer of 2019 and TikTok was not at that spot yet, but there was a lot of potential in the way that, and actually one of my slides, I think I didn't cover this, but TikTok is what I call an anti-echo chamber. So say I have 10,000 followers on Instagram and all of these people follow me because they care about sustainability and eco-tourism and travel. And then I go on Instagram, I'm like, hey guys, let's recycle today. Everybody on my followers is already like probably gonna do that today. Whereas on TikTok, if I go on there and post like, hey guys, let's recycle today, it's putting me in front of people that aren't searching my name, don't know who I am, aren't looking for my type of content, but I'm still getting the opportunity to push that message in front of them. And through that, I've been able to find like a lot of people do care about this message. They're just having trouble finding, that content or like finding some way to relate to it.
Great. Well, thanks for all you're doing.
Appreciate it. Yeah, thank you guys.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Awesome.
Other questions?
Awesome. Thank you guys.
Colin, thank you again very much.
Thank you so much.
It's awesome.
I appreciate it. You guys have a great one.
And we have signal over here from Steve, please.
Yeah, just if I could, before Kristen comes or gets up, talk about National Travel and Tourism Week. Interesting enough, when the whole theme of unwind and be kind, originally in my vision, I'm looking at the hospitality workers, knowing that you're going into busy season. We're already short-staffed, and just to remind our visitors, hey, be patient, be kind to them, and it really turned into this as well, which is be kind to the environment. And I love the dual message of this, and I really see it has legs year-round. But kudos to the staff for getting outside the box. I remember when they came to me and they were like, "Yeah, we got this guy Trash Colin on TikTok," and I'm like, "I'm sorry, what?" And then I had to call my kids and say, TikTok, is that a thing? Because, but what a great way to go out and reach folks. And I think the coolest thing that I saw was the amount of people that participated with us. And on Earth Day, given that's, that was one of the big days, there was a Keep Pinellas Beautiful had a contingent from Coca-Cola Central Florida, including Orlando, that came over for the beach cleanup. And then the other part was the visitors that actually were helping out as well. And then even we were down at Straub Park, the residents that were like, okay, what is this? And, and just saw we were picking up stuff. And I know the poundage wasn't necessarily the greatest, but keep in mind, it was like about an hour, I think, each cleanup versus I think, Mayor Hibbard, when we did Clearwater, it was like for 4 hours. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So, but yeah, hey, that's 400 pounds. That's off the streets, off the parks, off the grass and the sand. So it works. So, but kudos to the staff for everything they did to make that happen. And Colin, thank you. Thank you very much.
Just a comment, Steve. I would challenge ourselves to go back into the industry, into hospitality, into the hotel and the property owners along the beaches, and give us some more information that we can take this message directly to our employees and so forth to get to the guests also, so that we're not waiting for the city, but we're also taking care of it with the city. I think it'd be a good step. Ms. Caitlin?
Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Kristen Karen. I'm the Community Relations Manager with Visit St. Pete Clearwater, so I'm happy to be here today to share our Tourism Week, our National Travel and Tourism Week recap. And Mayor Hibbert, don't worry, we already have Trash Colin coming to the big cleanup Clearwater. So wheels are in motion. We're working with him, and he's been so great to work with. I can't speak enough about him. So National Travel and Tourism Week is an initiative developed by the U.S. Travel Association to recognize and celebrate tourism's place in our communities. So as you can see, we had a very full week for National Travel and Tourism Week, and I'm just going to share a quick recap of some of the highlights. So we encouraged our local businesses and landmarks to light their structures red in honor of Tourism Week for the entire week. This was an initiative that we started in 2020, and we want to continue this tradition. To the left, both Visit Tampa Bay and Visit St. Pete Clearwater were featured in U.S. Travel Association's travel recap book for lighting up the night red. So it's a little hard to see, but it is a post of both Visit Tampa and Visit St. Pete Clearwater featured their buildings or structures red. And then to the right, you can see our Visit St. Pete Clearwater social media followers are also fans of lighting our structures red, as we had over 600 shares of this social media post alone, it was quite a bit of shares. So we kicked off the week on a high note at St. Pete Clearwater International Airport for a travel rally. This was the 4th year in a row that we have organized a travel rally at the St. Pete Clearwater International Airport for National Travel and Tourism Week. So a huge thank you for the team at PI for being so willing to work with us. The event could not have happened without them, so a huge thank you to PI and especially Michelle Routh. So we had over 30 people in attendance at the travel rally, welcoming and celebrating our visitors. So during the time frame we were there, we welcomed about 1,000 arriving passengers through St. Pete Clearwater International Airport. We invited our area chamber partners to attend to talk more about their respective areas. In addition to celebrating the visitors, I received feedback from multiple of the chamber contacts saying it was also a good opportunity for the chambers to network amongst themselves too, because very rarely do we all get together as a group. So a huge thank you to the chambers that attended and spent their afternoon with us at St. Pete Clearwater International Airport. We had 10 of our 13 Chamber of Commerce locations in attendance. So in addition to the chambers, we had 3 themed umbrella stands. We had beach, craft beer, and arts and culture. So we had our team with Visit St. Pete Clearwater talking about the destination as a whole and all of our beaches. We had Three Daughters Craft Brewing Company talking about, the craft beer trail. We are home to 50 craft breweries now in the destination. So they were giving out samples and giving out information about our craft beer scene. And then we also had Creative Pinellas and Great Exploration Children's Museum talking about all things arts and culture, in addition to having some children's activity as we pictured there. So we even had the St. Pete Clearwater Pups giving visitors an extra special welcome. So again, this was a great event that we had at PIE. So Tuesday was our Future of Travel event at the Bellwether Beach Resort. We had over 160 RSVP'd and about 100 people in attendance. So thank you, I know, to Clyde and Doreen for being there. I'm not sure, I might have missed a couple other TDC members, but thank you for coming and supporting us at the event. So when we were planning kind of the topic of what we wanted to share, we knew we wanted to have an event, but we just weren't sure what. Originally, we thought maybe the strategic plan, but timing wasn't quite right. So once we launched the Unwind and Be Kind campaign, and we asked Trash Colin if he'd be willing to speak at the event, at the program. We knew we kind of had legs, and then that was when we invited Keep Pinellas Beautiful to talk about all of their initiatives. You know, they host thousands of cleanups throughout the destination each year. So kind of talk more about their mission. We wanted to have a hotel partner talk about some of the things that they are doing to pave the way for to be more sustainable, and also more ocean friendly. So we had Julie with Winter at the Dolphins Beach Resort share a great presentation. I felt like very relatable on some of the simple steps that they have taken to be more ocean friendly and animal friendly. And then we had Sherry Howman with Ocean Allies talk about how to certify your business as Ocean Allies and source more sustainable products. So they were all different organizations, but all had worked together. So I think I was really pleased with how it turned out, because it just was the perfect combination of, you know, the future of travel, how to be more sustainable, and give some of our partners some ideas moving forward and looking ahead. So each speaker had maybe like a 10-minute presentation, and then at the end we had a Q&A session, and we had a lot of great engagement with the audience. There were tons of questions asked. And we just feel like, you know, we want to continue the momentum, kind of as mentioned earlier, working with these organizations and how can we be more sustainable as a destination and support the businesses in doing so and giving them ideas. So Keep Pinellas Beautiful does have the Bee-Bot. It's the beach cleaning robot that's coming to the destination in July. I know they plan to hit 6 different beaches, so we are planning to work with Keep Pinellas Beautiful, Trash Colin, and several other organizations to host these beach cleanups and get the message out about the Bee-Bot and sustainability as a whole. So Katie briefly mentioned, but Wednesday was our final Unwind and Be Kind cleanup. It was at Straub Park. We picked up about 15 pounds of trash. And the majority of the items were smaller items like cigarette butts. So Mayor Welch, St. Pete was very clean. Don't you worry, but we made it even cleaner. But we ended the campaign on a high note on Wednesday in downtown St. Pete. And even when we were there talking about ideas of, you know, how can we host future cleanups? Like, can we host, you know, bring your dog to the park and clean up and have a cleanup. So we're continuing to think of ways and ideas of how we can partner together just for the mission of being more sustainable and keeping our destination and our beaches clean. So Friday was our Pineapple Cup tournament. As you might remember, last year we hosted a shuffleboard tournament in Pinellas County. So this year we came to Tampa for them to host a bocce ball tournament. So we really ended the week on a high note. You know, this was the joining of 2 organizations to network and celebrate the future of travel in Tampa Bay as a whole. And I think what made it extra special, I'm not sure if you can see, Roger Dow was in attendance. He's the president and CEO of U.S. Travel Association. So to have him at the event supporting us, he was there the entire time. He gave out the trophy at the end. So it was just truly special to have him there and supporting us. So it was a great event. And we're sad to announce that Tampa took home the trophy. And I don't know if you've noticed, I think our staff were still trying to get over the fact that Leroy wore a Visit Tampa Bay t-shirt. Leroy Bridges joined the Tampa team. And we ended up having a bracket, so Leroy and Patrick Harrison were the winning team, and they took home the Pineapple Cup trophy. But if we went by score, Visit St. Pete Clearwater technically won. But anyway, it was a fun day, and joking aside, we had a great time, and we're happy to share the Pineapple Trophy with Visit Tampa Bay. And then here is the Visit St. Pete Clearwater team. A special thanks to Jeff Klaus with St. Pete Clearwater International Airport for joining our team. We were a little short. We needed about 20 players, so we had to reach out to Jeff to see if he'd join our team, but he was happy to do so. So all in all, it was a great day, and we're looking forward to having the tournament back in Pinellas County this year, or next year, and potentially, hopefully we were saying inside, because May is just a little hot. So this was an email, a screen grab of an email that U.S. Travel Association sent out on Monday, and they highlighted the Sunshine Skyway Bridge being lit red, which, you know, we always love to see. So, you know, a thank you for your support and a save the date for next year. It's a little bit later in May. It's May 7th through the 13th, but we're looking forward to having another busy, action-packed week. Right, Steve? So thank you. Any questions about the week itself or any of the initiatives? All right, thank you.
Thank you very much. Great report. Next on the agenda, we're going to move back up to strategic plan, right? With Robert Allen, HCP. We're looking forward to this strategic plan update. Thank you, Robert.
Good morning. Let me just make sure the presentation is here. Okay. Good morning. Thank you so much. I am excited to be presenting this is kind of the complete full version. Some of you who have been in the BOCC meetings may have seen the condensed version. So this one is going to take a little bit longer. Of course, if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them as they come along or at the end of the presentation. So strategic planning. There's a lot going on with this project. What is it? It's a community and staff-driven reevaluation of the organization to clarify its mission and vision and provide guidance for changes to the organization's structure and service focus. Really, when going through and identifying all the roles and responsibilities that this organization has and should have in the next 5 years, we really wanted to focus on 3 different major categories. So there's ownership, which is that Visit St. Pete Clearwater is the primary party responsible for executing this. There's partnership, which is that Visit St. Pete Clearwater supports these causes or initiatives through resources, staff assistance, so on and so forth, but really in partnership with another organization or group. And finally, there's advocacy, which is really just about speaking in favor of a cause, but not taking an active or direct role in executing on it. As we identified these goals through stakeholder interviews, through research, through a survey of Pinellas County residents, we really wanted to make sure that we put emphasis on increasing the economic impact of each visitor, on developing the region's assets, increasing the benefits that everyday residents of Pinellas County gain from tourism, that's a huge one, and increasing partnerships across Pinellas County. There's 24 different municipalities, and really, tourism is one thing that a lot of them have all in common. So to do that, we conducted a series of data collection avenues. The first was a series of telephonic interviews, including with many of you in this room. I say it every time I give this presentation, but to those whom I interviewed, thank you very much. There was an online stakeholder survey that was deployed to smaller businesses serving tourism and other organizations, artists, et cetera, across Pinellas County. There was a community sentiment survey of 1,300 Pinellas County residents to get an understanding of how residents feel about tourism and its impacts on their everyday lives. Then there was industry and visitor analysis, really a review of other firms' research, including destination analysts, including larger trends in tourism and travel. And finally, we had our workshops. So there were 3 stakeholder workshops, which included many of the same people that we interviewed, but also some other stakeholders that weren't able to make those interviews. And then an all-day staff workshop during which these decision points were hammered out and the strategic objectives that we'll be showing you today were decided upon. So again, to kind of talk to each of these phases, stakeholder interviews were individual 45-minute to hour-long conversation, journalist-style interviews with a total of 46 different stakeholders. They were split into 4 different groups with 12 in each group. One group was Visit St. Pete Clearwater staff. The other group was asset and products, so including things like hoteliers, museum directors, tourism-serving businesses. We had government and infrastructure, including many of the stakeholders here, county and city governments, airports, transit operators, so on and so forth. Community and partnerships, that's really where we spoke to people like Keep Pinellas Beautiful, like the Creative Pinellas, and other community organizations. And again, that was a total of 46 different stakeholder interviews. Then we had our online stakeholder survey, which again was deployed to businesses that are in tourism or tourism-adjacent industries, wanting to make sure that we could hear from other people than just that 46, and we got 233 responses to that survey. Then we had our community sentiment survey of 1,300 Pinellas County residents. This was a tightly controlled, stratified survey that was a phone survey using a mixture of cell phones and landlines. And that was balanced according to the United States Census, according to gender, race, ethnicity, age, geography, and education. So again, wanting to make sure that we really had a very representative sample of Pinellas County as a whole. If you look on the right of this slide, you'll see that each one of those little yellow dots represents an approximate location of where our respondents were. Then we had our industry and visitor analysis, which again was a supplemental research review of Visit St. Pete Clearwater metrics, prior strategic plans, other DMO strategic plans, trends in travel and tourism, and reports and news stories covering not only local but national trends in travel and tourism. And our strategic planning workshops, I won't beat these up for too long. Again, we had the staff workshop on January 27th. The first half of that workshop was all Visit St. Pete Clearwater staff. The second half was senior leadership. I will say that the all staff half of the meeting was incredibly engaging, and I was consistently surprised and impressed by the degree to which staff at all layers of the organization were contributing and were bringing important points for discussion in that meeting. And then we had our 3 half-day sessions, really to review the results of those findings and to hear feedback on them. One was on the 31st of January, and then the other 2 were on the 1st of February. So, what did we learn? I will summarize in brief our findings. Again, if you saw the abbreviated presentation, this is going to be not new information for you. But Pinellas County's primary appeal in the eyes of stakeholders is as a beach-focused, family-friendly, and welcoming destination that also has so much more to do once you have a sunburn. So things like arts and culture. A term that kept coming up, and I have a suspicion that it will continue to come up across the next 5 years, is beaches plus. So yes, there are beaches. Yes, that is the core of the message, but that all that other stuff, the plus, is really what distinguishes and differentiates Pinellas County from other beachfront destinations, especially those in Florida. These are things like the hospitable culture. These are things like arts and culture. These are things like glass blowing, ecotourism, the trails and parks that Pinellas County features. But it's also the hidden gems in the area. So we asked stakeholders, what are some of these hidden gems that maybe everyday tourists to Pinellas County don't know about? And we heard a lot about Dunedin, Tarpon Springs, Safety Harbor, other towns, but also ecotourism and outdoor adventure destinations like Fort DeSoto, like Weeden Island Preserve, as these hidden gems that are really having a new appeal, and to some of the points that Trash Collins said, really going to be some of the future of travel and tourism, not only to here, but across the country. We also heard about some challenges. So that's transportation, including parking, red tide concerns, affordability challenges, and what I've been calling the a la carte problem. So there's so many different things to do in Pinellas County, and there's so many different municipal governments, so many different places to visit, that it can sometimes be a challenge for tourists to understand and have a sense of all the different options that are before them. These are all of the challenges that were raised. Some of these are going to be bigger picture challenges that are going to involve stakeholders outside of this room, but others like this a la carte challenge are really things that can be addressed by Visit St. Pete Clearwater. And there was broad consensus from stakeholders that Visit St. Pete Clearwater needs to do a little bit more internal messaging. So that's not only to things like the Unwind and Be Kind campaign, emphasizing that travelers in market should be respectful of their fellow tourists, of the residents in the area, and of the environment, but also to residents themselves, to give them a sense of all the different ways that tourism is contributing to the variety of experiences that they have in Pinellas County, to the local economy, and so on and so forth. We had some specific topics that we delved into with stakeholders, really speaking to things like capital improvements. So there was a broad support for sponsoring more distinctive events within the county, with an emphasis on drawing out more outside visitors. So these are more signature festivals, parades, so on and so forth. Really, the key emphasis here is that these should be repeated events, like the Valspar Tournament or like the Grand Prix, that are headquartered here, if you will, so that it's a signature recurring event and not necessarily just a one-off where Pinellas County is the host for one time. There was a strong but not unanimous consensus among stakeholders that a convention center might not be the best call for boosting meetings and conventions, just because it would be, the term that I keep hearing was a beast that needs to be fed. But there was, even among those that were not in favor of a convention center, a strong agreement that there should be a focus on new hotel inventory development that can support on-premise meetings. There's a recognized need for more space for meetings and conventions, but just whether or not that takes the form of a convention center was the big debate. In contrast, there was a more unanimous agreement that county-operated sports facilities would be an important boost to sports and events promotion across Pinellas County. There was a broad agreement that Visit St. Pete Clearwater should do more to coordinate with local industry on things like workforce and promotion. Really, transportation falls into that as well. We know that workforce challenges are here. They're not going away anytime soon. And how Visit St. Pete Clearwater as the industry organization for Pinellas County can help ameliorate these challenges is going to be an important thing to address in the next 5 years. Finally, there were sharply different opinions on capital and marketing use of TDC funding, but there was a broad agreement that the district will always require robust marketing. So although Clearwater Beach featured on all of the best beaches lists, although St. Pete is known to be a thriving arts destination, there was broad consensus that this stuff doesn't always sell itself, and there are many more DMOs spending more money than they ever have in the past. So it is an increasingly competitive landscape in which Visit St. Pete Clearwater needs to compete. In terms of what our residents told us, we learned that they broadly support tourism within Pinellas County. 91% of Pinellas County residents believe that tourism is important for the future of Pinellas County, and 85% believe that tourism benefits everyday residents in Pinellas County. We asked residents a series of questions about whether they feel that tourism makes these particular issues better, worse, or about the same. And what we found is that for most of the categories we tested, residents felt that tourism improves these things. Kind of a little bit of a paradox too. There were 4 categories that they said tourism makes worse. Litter, as we also saw with our presentation just a few minutes ago, crime, crowding, and traffic. But ironically, even though they believe that litter is made worse by tourists, they do believe that parks and preserves and Pinellas County beaches are made better by tourists. So there is a little bit of a recognition, at least, that the money to keep these places clean and pristine is being driven by tourism. Finally, we also learned that everyday residents of Pinellas County are doing a lot of things that tourists do in the area. 88% of them would recommend Pinellas County as a place to live, and the same 88% would also recommend the area as a place to vacation. The most striking statistic from this chart is this third line item in the graph here, which is 67% of Pinellas County residents within the last year had hosted friends or family from outside of Florida at their home. The survey was taken at the end of last year, and we asked people to look back 1 year. So that was even during a pretty high COVID time where still there were some restrictions. But again, 67% of Pinellas County residents have hosted friends or family from outside their home. This is a huge, huge market that doesn't necessarily get captured traditionally because they may either only stay in a hotel for a few nights or they may stay entirely with their friends and family. But this shows again that residents are deeply ingrained in the tourism landscape in Pinellas County.
When you say host, does that mean they stayed with them at their house or they had dinner? Or do we distinguish?
We only can distinguish and make sure that it was outside of Florida. So I will say, I guess if you drove down from Georgia to have dinner, then it's possible that they could have interpreted the word host as that. But I do believe that overwhelmingly people would assume that that means that they're staying overnight there. Only because we asked about outside of Florida.
Mayor, if I might on that, if we go into our monthly surveys and look at what DA's capturing, they're starting to get more VFR visit, of which you see a combination of either staying with their guests or renting a hotel room or some type of lodging. So really a combination of both of those things.
Yeah, I do believe that in the majority of respondents, they're not going to assume that as someone, originally from another state who lives here now is coming over for dinner. I do believe that the phrasing of this would capture staying visitation.
But when you say host, it doesn't really matter. But we've had people who have stayed at hotels who we host for a dinner or something else.
Sure, I understand.
That's why I'm trying to see if the surveyors actually distinguished.
Right.
It's a small point, it doesn't matter.
Okay, so now I'm going to delve into the strategic outcomes. There are many, and we'll go ahead and start with ownership roles. Again, as we mentioned, ownership means that Visit St. Pete Clearwater should be the primary party responsible for executing on these different strategic objectives. So the first one is to emphasize the marketing and storytelling focus of the organization. This is a little bit of a common sense point, but it bears repeating that Visit St. Pete Clearwater's primary mission is making sure that the story of Pinellas County, of all its different communities, of all the different activities there are to do here, is kept in the focus of the organization's mission. This is crucial because there is a shift going on in all of the different media channels that people use to communicate. As we just saw with the TikTok presentation, this is going to require new ways of thinking, new ways of engaging with a broader selection of media channels. This is going to involve filling some vacancies. This is going to involve coming up with new innovative strategies to make sure this message is kept common and also diversified to those different target audiences across all of these new channels. The next is to explore more bold, targeted, and innovative storytelling strategies with high ROI. So this really comes around from the perspective of there's so many different things to do in Pinellas County. How do you market them all? If you're running a 30-second TV ad, you have to talk about the beaches. But because there is the need to talk about these other communities and what they have to offer, because there is the need to speak to these more niche categories, anything from an LGBTQ parade to the glass-blowing events to an ecotourism trail, they may not all warrant a 30-second spot, but they can be included in targeted marketing. They can be included in smaller scale digital efforts. So the emphasis here is to make sure that all of these different things that are at your fingertips in Pinellas County are being messaged to the people that are most receptive to those particular activities. It can't just be the one big shot of the beach. It does now have to speak to people about their specific interests. The next is to be the liaison between hoteliers and the destination to drive increased tourist capacity. So this is really about making sure that Visit St. Pete Clearwater has a seat at the table when it comes to development conversations that affect the tourism industry. There's a known challenge of affordability. ADR continues to go up. We also know that there are some needs unmet in terms of business and meeting space. So having Visit St. Pete Clearwater take an active role in promoting this and taking an active role in the development conversation is going to be an important step for the next 5 years. This is also something that they can have partnerships with in the form of, for instance, Pinellas Economic Development. I'm sorry, did you raise your? The next is to deepen engagement with the visiting friends and relatives market. So right now, most of the marketing efforts are taking place well away from Pinellas County, but with what we've seen not only from our research, but also from the destination analyst research, is that this is a growing market segment that needs to be messaged to a little bit more. And they're already coming here, so we don't have to message to them necessarily where they're at, but it is a matter of letting them know about all the different things they can do here and all the ways that they can come in and spend money and contribute to the local economy. Another important point that I want to make here is that even when people come to visit family or friends in Pinellas County, they don't always stay the entire duration with their family or friends. They may stay for 1 or 2 nights, and then they may go stay in a hotel room. We heard a lot from that in our secondary research, and it is another important point to note as we talk about messaging to this audience. Increase engagement with locals to raise awareness of tourism's benefits. So We know that Pinellas County residents are broadly supportive of tourism from our research, but we do know that they don't have much of an idea about how much tourism contributes to the local economy. We also know that they don't have a great idea necessarily of all the different attractions and amenities that received tourism funding. So a lot of times when I spoke with stakeholders, they would make the comparison to the Penny for Pinellas signs. And you know, if anything has the penny for money, then it has that nice little green sign and everybody can see your tax dollars at work. So there's this notion of, well, why doesn't something like that happen with projects that receive TDT money? When there's a new museum being built and locals are enjoying that, do they know that that's being paid for in large part by tourist contributions? So this is an opportunity for more engagement and messaging with the local community to see how tourism is benefiting them and all the additional attractions and amenities they get to enjoy because of a strong tourism industry in Pinellas County. Next is to improve working relationships with local media to highlight the destination's successes. So this is really a staff-driven ask to engage more with local media to feature their ongoing activities. So this is things like the beach cleanup, which we already saw that Visit St. Pete Clearwater is taking great strides in doing. Getting front page in the Times is a great PR win for an important initiative such as that. Again, though, this is about making sure that tourists understand what Visit St. Pete Clearwater is doing, this is so that residents understand what Visit St. Pete Clearwater is doing for them. Deepen the level of services provided to meeting planners and event promoters. So this is really about not just being lead generation for the meeting planners and event promoters, but for facilitating across different venues, facilitating between a hotel and an attraction, facilitating between two different hotels. If there's a convention or a meeting that's large enough to have both, it's about finding those additional synergies and not just providing leads to the hoteliers. So how are these additional ways that Visit St. Pete Clearwater can help promote these industry partners, the hoteliers, in a more innovative way than just providing leads? Raise awareness of Pinellas County's nature preserves and promote ecotourism. This was a strong recommendation that we heard from our stakeholders and what we learned from our secondary research. It's not just the beaches anymore. The kayaking, the Pinellas Trail, all of these other assets and amenities are becoming as appealing to certain traveler sects as just the beaches themselves. And as we see with the beaches being very, very popular and ADR continuing to climb, opening up some more of this green real estate to tourism is going to be important for really smoothing the demand. Maintain film as a major driver to Pinellas County and strengthen the benefits of film-induced tourism to the region. Fortunately, a lot of these efforts are already being undertaken by Tony and his team, but really it's this notion of if film-induced tourism, we all know the story of Winter the Dolphin and how successful that's been, is a major driver to tourism, then future film projects should include more mentions and references and benefits back to Pinellas County. So I almost call this the product placement point, where if there's a film being shot and it's getting help from the Film Commission, then there should be some more explicit references to Pinellas County or to Dunedin or to the different communities in which that film is being featured. So again, Tony's already been taking some great strides with this, but it is an important thing to keep in mind moving into these next 5 years. Create and maintain a master calendar of events and activities across Pinellas County. This is probably the one that staff will like me the least about, but this goes directly to that point of how do you find out all the different things there are to do. There's already a calendar on Visit St. Pete Clearwater's website that is well maintained. It has some of the major events, but this is about really opening that up even further and using technology partners to find local music, local events, smaller scale events that people can see that meet their interests. So again, it's that idea of how can we get almost everything on this calendar on Visit St. Pete Clearwater's website. Foster working relationships with domestic and international media to highlight Pinellas as a destination. I included this image in this slide because I think it drives the point home. If you all recall going back to the pandemic, this was an image that was on, I want to say it was ABC, maybe CBS, but it was back when the national news media was saying, wow, look at all these people on Clearwater Beach, how irresponsible they are. It's the middle of COVID, what are you doing? But it's this idea of there has to be a pushback against that. We now know that being outside at the beach is probably one of the safest things you could have been doing at that time. But further, it can't just be the negative spin in the national media. There does need to be more of a concerted effort to get media coverage across the country that's featuring Pinellas County in a positive light. Emphasizing quality over quantity of visitors and promoting the destination. So this is a little bit of a philosophical change. We know that residents have some concerns about traffic and congestion as a function of tourism, but we also know that there was a large increase in drive time visitors during the pandemic. Some of that has not abated, although it has started to shift back more towards normal, per what I have heard from the stakeholders. But what we do know is that we want a visitor that's adding value. We want a visitor that's not causing negative environmental impacts or social impacts. And we want visitors that are driving maximum economic impact. At the end of the day, if we have to choose, we want to have the visitors that are really here to enjoy and appreciate the destination, to have a little bit of a longer stay, to be respectful of the community and the environment. So really it's about emphasizing a higher quality visitor that's going to stay longer and be more contributive. Encourage more large-scale cultural and sporting events. So again, we see the need to drive more of these events in Pinellas County. One of the things that some of the large-scale sporting and cultural events do already is that they bring people from markets that are not necessarily in the target market areas that Visit St. Pete Clearwater messages to. So this is a great opportunity to get that extra exposure in markets that may not be on the radar yet, but may come online in the future. You know, when you see some of these tournaments on the TV, you see that there's these big shots of the beach, big shots featuring Pinellas County and all its different destinations. So that's free coverage, and it's worth a tremendous amount. This next one is to study the capacity of Pinellas' sports facilities and fields to determine residential and tourist needs. So we know that the desire for county-run sports facilities is strong, and that staff have told us that that is a major impediment to the sports business in Pinellas. But we also, what we don't know is whether or not the local communities are being well served by the existing sport facilities. So this is something that in partnership perhaps with Parks and Rec, that there could be some commission study to understand how full are these parks, what are the needs of the local community, and is there a way that this could be parlayed into working for both tourists and residents alike. Again, understanding that this is a tourism promotion undertaking, but that ultimately that does have to serve the local community. Increase information sharing with stakeholders and community leaders. So this is really about getting in front of all the different local governments, all the different chambers and other organizations on a more frequent basis to make sure that all of these organizations understand what Visit St. Pete Clearwater is doing. There was a little bit of a staff and stakeholder expression that's taking place now, but it has been a little bit greater at other times in the past. But really just the idea of how can that be brought back and emphasized so that there's always someone from Visit St. Pete Clearwater at the table when it's talking about these important issues. Coordinating with municipalities and attractions to better broaden the tourist experience. So a lot of this has to do with transportation and information, right? If you go to one destination, if you're in St. Pete, you may not want to take a day trip because you have to rent a car or because an Uber is $65 to go to somewhere out of that one municipality. So how can there be solutions to provide that additional information or to get transportation solutions like the Jolly Trolley, but a more expanded opportunities for that to get people moving across Pinellas County and not just staying in one municipality when they are here on their trip. Fight for beach renourishment. So this is a big one. You all are, of course, very well aware of everything going on with the Army Corps of Engineers and the important need to have the renourishment process. This is really, you know, stakeholders were pretty candid with me. This is a pretty existential challenge. You know, we hear about what's going on at Johns Pass where the sand is building up. We hear about other beaches in Pinellas County where the sand is eroding away. Both the building up and the eroding away are causing big challenges for businesses. And really, the beaches, as we've heard across all of our lines of research, as everybody knows in this room, are the crown jewel of Pinellas County tourism. So even though I don't expect Steve to pick up a shovel or to be driving one of those large machines that they use to shovel sand with, it does have to be something that is crucially fundamental and owned by Visit St. Pete Clearwater, is making sure that this is taking place. Okay, so those are all the ownership roles. I promise the next two categories are not as expansive. The next up is partnership, which is, again, providing support, whether resources, staff time, or membership, to organizations that are leading the way for these causes. Visit St. Pete Clearwater may play a key role, but it is not going to be their primary responsibility. Encouraging respect for the environment among tourists and residents. Well, you all just got a fantastic presentation on what they're doing on this already. But this is an important function, and partnerships such as that with Trash Collins, with Keep Pinellas Beautiful, are going to be an important part of doing this moving forward. Coordinating between hotels and cultural attractions to promote events and feature local artists. There is that brand new Arts and Crafts Museum that just got built, but I bet most tourists only think of the Dolly when they think about museums in Pinellas County. Making sure that people get exposed to not just the one or two key museums, but also to see some of the other arts and culture attractions and amenities across Pinellas County is important, not only for growing the local arts community and the workforce there, but also for promoting Pinellas County as an arts destination rather than just a destination with one or two great museums. Continue supporting and providing resources to arts and culture in Pinellas County. So this is more on the direct contribution and partnerships with organizations like Creative Pinellas. So things like a consistency of funding or more support for these different programs that they have going on. Contribute to placemaking efforts across the county to highlight areas' different uniquenesses. So I'm not sure that uniquenesses is a word, but I've been using it throughout this work. Placemaking, there's been a big debate on, you know, what is the capital help that TDT money can be used for. Placemaking is a great example of something that doesn't have to be high dollar, but it can have high impact because it helps to draw these cultural distinctions in these different communities. So whether that's signage, whether that's historic preservation help, whether that's keeping a common architectural standard or installing public art, these are ways that are relatively low cost that can have a large impact in driving that sense of place. And sense of place not only is important for tourists, but it's an important thing for residents too. You see huge debates over things like architectural standards among the development community. So it's not just a tourist-driven function here. It really is about making sure each community has its own feel and sense of place. Committing to partnering with organizations to keep Pinellas' natural environments pristine. So this really has to do with litter. And we've heard again about litter and how the messaging is not only to teach tourists to be respectful of the environment, but also to make sure that this stuff is being cleaned up, that this stuff has a sustainable program, that there are efforts in place. And this could also include partnerships with organizations like the Department of Solid Waste at Pinellas County. You know, making sure that there's a wide availability of things like trash cans and recyclable bins to make sure that people have the means of disposing of their trash. These are important ways of not just teaching them what to do, but making it easier for them to do it. Increase cross-bay partnerships and marketing, especially internationally. So St. Pete, Clearwater, Pinellas County, or let me actually use this story. If you go to somebody in Germany and you ask them about Florida, they're gonna tell you Disney World and Miami. We know that Tampa Bay, we know that St. Pete, Clearwater, Pinellas County, they don't always have the strongest name recognition outside of core markets in the US or a couple of different international destinations that Visit St. Pete Clearwater has been promoting. But we do know that the non-cooperation between all the different counties and all the different DMOs in the area, that era is coming to an end. stakeholders really believe that the best way to work with, for instance, Visit Tampa Bay, is to take advantage of things like the Visit Florida Co-op, to take advantage of international trade missions and opportunities where the Tampa Bay brand is really going to be the only name that you may be able to get people to remember, rather than trying to split hairs about which county here and there. So although we can keep friendly competition with our friends across the bridge in local markets and for national events, for international or for far-flung events, it makes more sense to work together under that Tampa Bay umbrella. Collaborate for increased airline routes to the area to improve destination access. This is huge. If you have a direct flight to a destination, it immediately lowers the pain and the cost of getting to a place. And as we've seen with what Allegiant has done getting out to the Midwest and how much that's driven travel and tourism, this is a crucial component that Visit St. Pete Clearwater should do whatever it can to help these airlines, not just PI, but also Tampa International, to improve route access to the Bay Area. Work with attractions, hoteliers, and transportation providers to simplify the transit experience. So again, this is how can tourists get a sense of where these trolleys are, how they can get to these different things. Are there new innovative ways? So for instance, I know in Hillsborough County, there's the Brew Bus, for instance. It's a company that drives people around between all the different breweries. I'm sure there are equivalent ones here. But do they know about the Cross Bay Ferry? Do they know about all of these different options? Making sure that we can get them that information so that tourists don't have to feel compelled to rent a car necessarily to get around, or to, again, spend a lot of money. Ubers are very expensive these days on taking cabs to and from their destination. Partner for workforce development for the local hospitality sector. So this is kind of a two-pronged point. So one is getting the message out at the short term about these vacancies, about the openings. But the other is more of a longer-term investment in the education system, working Visit St. Pete Clearwater in partnership with these different colleges and schools to promote the idea of a hospitality career, to talk about how you can have a successful business in hospitality and to fight against some of the negative stigma that comes with this sector as just being low wage. Now, that's not to say that there aren't plenty of low-wage jobs in hospitality, but it is to say that there are a lot more higher-paying jobs than people may realize, and that it is not just a dead-end career path. That's a stigma that really needs to be fought against, because there's a lot of small business people that are working entirely in the hospitality sector that are doing quite well for themselves. And promoting tourism and hospitality as a career path is going to be something that would be the long-term side of things, helps to grow and make that a more sustainable industry in Pinellas County. Finally, I have our advocacy points. So this means that Visit St. Pete Clearwater is in support of this, but that they're not necessarily spending staff time or resources on a daily basis advocating for these things. Advocating for an increase in meeting and convention space, emphasizing on-premise events. So again, this is how can we drive more meeting space. Steve isn't going to be filing the development plans, but this is a point of talking about how can there be more interaction with, for instance, economic development and new hotel development. Making sure that you are able to have a robust meeting and convention space, even if that means that there isn't a convention center being built in Pinellas County. Advocating for environmental protections, including shoreline resiliency, red tide, and more. So again, although beach renourishment is really something that is crucial and very core to Visit St. Pete Clearwater, things like red tide, other shoreline resiliency, other environmental advocacy points, not so core to the organization. They're important. We know that red tide is a deep risk. Even if it's not causing much damage, the threat of it from a PR and driving people away perspective is very real. So advocating for ways to reduce this, ways to prevent things like another Piney Point from happening, are something that needs to be considered as advocacy points for the organization. Speaking of the other big challenge that we mentioned at the beginning of this presentation is transportation. It's not just for tourists, like we've mentioned in a couple other slides with how Visit St. Pete Clearwater could potentially help to create these solutions. It's also for workers. So how can tourism workers, hospitality workers get a better transportation experience. So this can be as simple as talking about the need to keep certain routes open later, because you can take the bus to work and then the bus is done by the time your shift is over. And it could be about creating new routes or talking about new transportation solutions. But ultimately, we know that transportation is a huge challenge. We know that workforce transportation, especially to get to places all the way out on the beach from where they live. Most people working in the hospitality sector do not live right on the beach. They commute quite a ways to get to their workplace. So how can this be improved? We know that Visit St. Pete Clearwater needs to fight for that at least. It's not just about transportation, but it's also about housing and affordability. So we've all seen the rising cost of rents and housing in this market and across the entire Tampa Bay area. We know that affordable housing needs to be a priority for these workers, or else they're going to be commuting from Pasco County at a certain point just because of affordability challenges. So although, again, this isn't to say that Steve should be out building workforce housing himself, it does mean that Visit St. Pete Clearwater needs to understand that this is a crucial point to be advocating. And I know I've covered a great deal of content. I would welcome all of your questions that you haven't already asked me right now. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Robert. Outstanding report. And we have questions? Mayor?
Robert, a couple things. First of all, I'm a huge advocate for strategic planning. How long do you believe a strategic plan is good for? I mean, they're dynamic documents, but how often do you recommend updates?
We have, I guess is the question about how often we should update it, or how long is the plan's window envisioned?
Well, I think it's a living, breathing document, so I believe in updates.
Yeah. I think that the strategic plan should be reviewed and refreshed on a yearly basis. I don't know that that's going to change these strategic objectives very much. However, the tactics or the way in which each of these is being approached, I think that's more something that gets updated on an annual basis.
I love the idea for signs like Penny for Pinellas. I had written that in my notes. I guess I've got some questions for you, Steve. I mean, the one thing I would like to see is this condensed down into one page, which I think is very difficult. And I'm not talking about all the detail, but the major points. Right. Because I think a strategic plan should be in our packet every single month. And one of the only things I'm concerned about with this is there are a lot of kind of goals, but I don't see that they're ranked. And I don't see that there are filters or pillars that are going to guide us in how we're going to use our time, treasure, and talent.
Well, what I would say is that in our reporting, we've been using those, not only the 3 responsibility buckets, but also those other 4 categories that I mentioned at the beginning of that presentation. So there are some groupings to that that I can provide to you. So there's maybe a little bit more to that than you think, but I definitely see your point.
I mean, I know we can't get granular on a one-pager, but I think it's important that we keep what we ultimately approve at the forefront of our thinking when we're talking about the budget and, advertising dollars, but also the capital dollars. I think you have to use this as a lens to look at all of those things. And to me, it's not condensed enough to do that yet.
If I'm back, Mr. Chair. Mayor, great question. And I was going to kind of get into that after the presentation, but I'll use the opportunity now. I mean, for us, really, is for me to get the written report back. So this is like the summary of all the findings. Now there's going to be some other things that will come with that. So A. B, I agree it's a living document. Where I was previously, we said 5 years. Realistically, we could have changed it and redid it at 3 years, just the way things change. But one of the things that we went through and did is every year when it came time to planning for that year is how are we accomplishing these things that'll meet these objectives or priorities strategically. And then the other element to it is, and this goes back to the length of time, is, and we haven't identified it yet, is what is being done short-term, and let's just say within the next year to 2 years, what's being done midterm, 3 to 4 years, and then long-term is 5. I mean, face it, some of the things that Robert's mentioned up here, that's not going to take place in 1 year or 2 years. It's going to be 4 or 5 years, but you got to get it on the radar so you know that that's a direction you're going to have to go. So there's still some work to do to that. We just want to provide you, at least the update of where all the comments, everything we've gotten back, that kind of outlines the strategic priorities of where we need to go.
And then I had a question for the hoteliers. I think it's great for our staff to be working with you and maybe future projects to see where there's some low-hanging fruit that we could be a part of, trying to figure out where we have deficits, especially in convention space. I mean, how would you foresee us working with hoteliers? Would it be something we'd want cities to reach out to future projects to say, we'd love for you to do a sit with our staff to talk about some of the holes we have in the market?
I would say, Mayor, you've done some of that during your first administration and now a little in your second, in that when you went in as the city of Clearwater, which I'm part of, and you changed density in a district area, or you did the infrastructure so that hotels could be developed or whatever it is, you invested on off-street parking or whatever it is, you helped that industry of meetings and conventions and bringing it on. And I can tell you, for example, the Wyndham has probably bigger meeting space than is needed for that size hotel, but you helped make that happen. That's what other cities along the beaches, but at downtown St. Pete, that's really what is needed. And then also you need to work with people like Innsbruck that has the land and everything to do more. And maybe they have the meeting space, but they don't have the residential, the housing space or whatever. Those different districts need to be working with it, and it'll help bring that along. I think we should master every meeting under 500 rooms or 600 rooms type of thing, attendance. That is ours. Ours is not the convention center in Tampa. We benefit from that. But I think that's really is. I think the steps have been started, but I can see this on this plan for the next year, 2 years, but beyond 5 years too. That's something we're going to live with. That's how I would feel about it. Mike, you want to comment?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mayor, I agree with you, and I think this plan certainly provides a framework for our future thinking, but I think we need to work hard to distill down those items, those actionable items that we can tackle, Steve, to your point, in this is what we can do year one, or in the next 90 days we can do this, and get those action items agreed upon, and let's start moving on them. Because while, Robert, this is incredible information and a wealth of work, very well done, if we don't put action items behind it, it means nothing. Certainly it should provide that framework for decision-making for quite some time. On the issue of how do we get more involved in the development, I think we need to be, I say we, Steve, I think the VSPC can be reaching out to the development community and actively soliciting their business to say, we can help you. As someone who has done hotel development, one of the first calls I make is to the Bureau in that particular area, because of the wealth of information that you have at your disposal. Every developer is going to want to see that early in their programming for a potential project. So I think that if we can get very strategic in working with the Hiltons, the Marriotts, the big brands to start with, let's go out and let's talk to them. I know a lot of those development guys in those companies that we could have a a very quick conversation with.
Doreen?
Yes, following along that line, I think that we've got a situation that each community controls its own development plan. So we're not dealing with a county overall plan. We're dealing with each community. St. Pete Beach obviously being one, and St. Pete has their own challenges. So what can VSPC do? And I agree completely that we need to be there, because what I'm hearing is that some of these development entities are not even reaching out to the communities that they're in. So they aren't selling themselves before they go in with a big idea. And to me, that needs to be, what can we do to help them? What can we create a positive plan of action and show how the overall tourism impact in those communities where these plans are being developed, how can we all work together to make it positive? You've covered that in the city of Clearwater in many ways by having those community involvements. But in the smaller communities, I don't think that they have a cohesive effort. They're not necessarily working with the chambers. There's a lot of things that could be brought together, and I can see a big role by VSPC being able to professionally help in that regard.
Thank you. Steve, you have a comment?
I was just going to say, I think it really falls under that collaborative effort. And I'll give you a great example. I had a phone call from a consultant they're looking at 2 hotels, limited service, and they wanted to know about leisure travel, what was happening. Now that's, now granted we had COVID in there for 2 years, but that's like the first call I've had, asking that question. Well, it turns out after a little bit further digging is the properties that they want to build are limited service, and they're not going at leisure would be their second or third market. Their primary market is they're going after contract employees like in the medical industry where they need a place to live for 90 days. And that becomes their place because otherwise you can't get an apartment, you can't find an apartment, you can't find it for 7 months or, any of those things. They see a demand there. And I'm like, okay, that's good to kind of plug that away so that you have that information that's there. The other side of it is if someone's looking at building and we can say here, and again, comes back to the meeting space, well, here's typically our size of business. Maybe they were only thinking of having 10,000 square feet. Maybe they need to have 15. But here's the information about the destination as a whole, what's going on, that 9 times out of 10, they don't really have. Because they'll get the STR reports, but it doesn't get into the group business, and so that they'll miss a lot of that. But that's where I look at a role we can provide in reaching out, and then I think for municipalities, if they're trying to attract folks, then we also have data that can say, hey, here's the type of people that are traveling, here's the type of business, here's the data that goes behind that, so that they're making a wise business decision. When they go to look at doing something like that.
Thank you. Mayor?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The danger is as other folks are making comments, my list of questions grows longer, but I'll try to keep it short. I love what Doreen just talked about, and to me it sounds like we need strategic visioning, and perhaps that's the TDC and the Board of County Commissioners. What is our vision for the destination moving forward as we deal with all of these issues? And another one that wasn't on there, or maybe I missed it, was the whole impact of sea level rise and resiliency.
That was under the shoreline resiliency point.
Okay.
Yeah, it's 100% on the radar though.
So at some point, I just think we need to get together, and I'm thinking like a collaborative lab, and just talk about what our vision is and what our roles would be. But going backwards, totally agree with Mayor Hibbard on the one-pager. Now, my last year on the commission was virtual, but before that, Barry was actually handing out this one-pager at every commission meeting, and it was right in front of us, and it kept us kind of in touch with what our mission is, like you said, looking at everything through that lens. So I think that's a great idea. When was the last strategic plan update?
Forgive me, do you mean like the last time I presented an update of where we were?
Yeah, is this a refresh, or are these brand new?
No, these are the final decided strategic objectives. Now, some of the tactics and the 90-day, 100-day, 1-year, 2-year, 5-year, all of that is still being ironed out with Visit St. Pete Clearwater now. But in terms of what the goals are, those are basically done. The process is
I
completed.
guess my question is, when did this process start?
This has been about a year, year and a quarter in length, but Mayor, I believe that this is the first plan like this for tourism. There may have been something done in the early 2000s. I don't know how in depth it was done. As staff, we had started on looking at mission and vision internally, but this is the first time we've actually gone out to the community and the industry to get that feedback and those comments.
Okay. Well, I think it's a great step. On one of your slides, you said there were 46 stakeholders interviewed,
That's correct.
and it says 12 for each group. So was one of the group only 10? Because there were 4 groups.
Let me follow up. That may just be a math
This might
error
be a
on my
typo.
end.
Okay.
Yeah.
And one thing that popped up was a master event calendar, and they were talking about that in my previous life. And at some point, I know Creative Pinellas had started something like that. So I'm wondering where that went. Is it?
I'll let Steve speak to the creative calendar.
Okay. But we don't have a calendar that a visitor can pull up and see everything going on.
There is one on the Visit St. Pete Clearwater website, but to say that it contains everything would not be. It's most of the major events, all of the big picture events, things that the TDC or that Visit St. Pete Clearwater will be at. They're all there. But in
Okay.
terms of containing like a smaller, all of the smaller events, that's not there.
Okay. Well, I would like to know what happened with the Creative Pinellas.
Arts Navigator.
Yeah. Is that up?
In terms of the overall, what would you call it? It's in the initial stages of
Beta.
testing.
Yeah,
Okay.
beta stage.
That's,
That's just
thank
for-
you, that's the word I was looking for. And
That's
I
just for
think
arts and-
launch, yes, it is for all size arts, culture type events, so it wouldn't be as expansive to include everything.
Okay.
And I think we're talking about full launch in, I'm looking at Barbara again, but I'm thinking November? Steve and Russ, may she speak to that real quick, or?
Sure. Barbara?
So we're having the soft launch at the end of June and the grand.
Would you come to the mic, please, Barb?
We are in MVP, minimal viable product. Right now, we will have a soft launch at the end of June, and we will have a full grand massive launch in November for our arts contingent with our arts annual event that we have every November. Thank you.
Glad it's still up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just the last 2 comments. Again, on the arts funding, I see that, the arts and culture is identified as something there. And so I think that supports what I brought to the board previously about funding the arts in a more consistent way. Are crosstabs available for this like you would normally get?
Yes, especially for the resident survey. What I will say about the resident survey, we cut the county into 4 pieces because we know that the beaches only have about 5% of the population, but we wanted to make sure we had enough to have a margin of error that was appropriate there. That doesn't mean that they're oversampled or overrepresented in the full data, so we sampled them back down. But we wanted to make sure that we could see if there was differences of opinion on how those communities felt. We know that some of those smaller beachfront towns and communities have very different opinions on tourism than Clearwater and St. Pete do. I was surprised at how few great differences there were in the resident study when we did the crosstabs. So we do have those. I can provide them to you. They tell a picture of a relatively unanimous opinion. There are some differences, but nothing that came out as really striking, or this one area says we hate this versus another saying we love this. I was pleasantly surprised at a degree of uniformity.
I would like to get a copy of those.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the final thing is the issue we're all facing is housing. I'd love for us to talk about what we can do to help support that. Thank you so much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Do you have a comment, Steve, or can I go to Mike? Mike, are you? Anybody else for comments? Melinda?
Thank you. Thank you for doing such a nice presentation. And the whole time, I look at that presentation and our board, kind of in a big picture perspective. And like we all kind of represent an aspect of tourism that we all have to understand and share each other. So the fact that you're talking about having a collaborative lab of sorts to kind of work through some of these goals, directives, and advocacies, I think is so important. I don't think these meetings kind of lend itself to that as much as they probably, it would be nice to. But for instance, when I think of the residential perspective on tourism, I'm on City of St. Pete Beach. I represent the Barrier Island community on to the TDC, and so I see a completely different perspective. When we have an eco-tourism component in what they were doing, I was just like, I was so happy, because I know that a lot of the tourism has a bad reputation for, bringing the negative to the residential components. And right now, we're looking at a significant event convention space redevelopment on St. Pete Beach with the Tradewinds properties. And I've got Tim Bogott and Keith Overton in the back of my ear saying, they represented on this board trying to navigate through those very challenging exercises. And if the residential surveys were looking that way, I've got a Nextdoor app and Facebook post against this project that in 24 hours has hit over 500 people saying, the commissioners and everybody's, crooks, type thing. The perspective is so different to the direct communities, and we have to overcome that. And the benefits of tourism to the residents needs to be identified, communicated, educate the community so that they realize that, because some of the information that comes out of the chamber, for instance, is like it benefits each household $1,500. I'm like, that is not enough to justify, some of the adversities that they're dealing with in being in a tourism-based community. And so, we only have 10,000 residents. We only get sales tax benefits to 10,000 residents, not the additional 40,000 that we host on any given Sunday. So, the beach cleanup and all those kinds of things. When I go to Clearwater Beach, I look at your system of beach cleanup, and I'm like just in awe every single morning when I wake up in my hotel room and watch, you guys are just, you have it figured out. And we try very, very hard to figure it out in our community. But along the Barrier Islands, beach renourishment, that's one thing that comes to from Visit St. Pete, our BedTex money, is beach renourishment. Well, now they're talking about a dune system that they're going to be putting in that's going to be 10 feet high, that's going to limit beach access to the beach for the people who are coming to the beach because they want to get away from beach renourishment. So there's so many components going along. I love the fact that we're identifying one of the components as far as being an advocacy for development, being an advocacy for working with the county commission, and helping them. When we look at Red Tide, that's a direct reflection. If we're spending $5 million in Red Tide in advertising to bring people here and they have a bad experience, what can we do in working with the county commission to set up an environmental system to keep the red tide from ever touching our beaches and our waterways? That's an ecotourism, component as well. So I don't know, there's a lot. Let's have a collaborative lab if you guys have the temperament for it, or I'll just bend Steve's ear for the rest of my life. But anyway, thank you. I just want to say I really like the direction. I like the elements that are in here, and I think that we all bring something to the table, and this is some of the comments and concerns that I have with where we should be going.
Thank you, Melinda. Other comments or
Could I just add one
questions?
thing to your statement, Melinda? On the difference between what you hear at a community town hall and a survey, it's really, really, really important in statistics to understand the idea of a selection effect. So if I'm very passionate about something, if I have the free time, then I can show up to a county meeting. When you're doing an online or a phone survey, these people don't know what they're talking about until they're on the phone. And so it's a lot more designed to get that average Joe experience. And that's something that, we're big fans of community surveys. It's something that we do a lot of, but it's always about making sure that your sample isn't biased And when you have those sort of town hall meetings, you tend to get people very, very passionate either on one side or on the other, and you don't necessarily capture anybody in the middle because they're too busy taking their kids to school or to soccer games or going out and living life. So just one point on that.
Well, like I said, we've already lost out on a quality project because of the sentiment of the residents not, willing to make those concessions or allow that change. And I don't want it to continue. And time kills, deals in our sustainable tourism industry is based on having a good product out there for the future. And, Clearwater's managed to, create that kind of investment because they're a bigger town and they're, if Clearwater Beach was just one little small municipality, you probably wouldn't have the same example. But I know even when you were talking about what municipalities do, we've completely changed some of our parking requirements based on the fact that the future of parking is in our, transportation is going to be in our phones. And so we're doing a lot of those really important municipality decision actions, basically in helping that. It's just not, unfortunately, it's not going to be enough.
Thank you, Melinda. Steve, before you make your comments, would you include also what the schedule is for the Board of County Commission for this presentation and our what are we looking for time-wise for the next steps and everything? And if the mayor or either mayor has any comment about that, where does the Board of County Commission fit in this schedule?
So on this, so actually we've made we made the 20-minute presentation to the BCC, and it was 8 pages.
I want to say 16, but yeah.
Okay, all right. I was
16
hoping
instead of 50.
Yeah. So but we gave them the high level, of where we're at. Then we wanted to go through and present really the full study like you're seeing here to you guys. Next step is for us to get the written report, which really goes in. I mean, now we get all the dirty details from there. And then really from that aspect is to go back and say, all right, is everyone comfortable with this direction? I mean, there's some very strong priorities in here. Some things that we've been doing but need to be amplified. Some things that are brand new, but it puts us, in a more of a leadership role when it comes to some of the issues that are out there. So from a timing standpoint, I would look probably to the late summer, or I'm sorry, early fall for the BCC. At the same time is go through and at the staff level is have a presentation with them and start looking at some of the priorities, but then look at the if the priority there happens to be around sustainability, all right, well, let's look at specifics that we're maybe already doing. Now, how do we amplify that? Same thing. Yeah, so just, I mean, I could go on and on, but really to get the staff level. And then essentially from that is once we get everyone on the same page, then that gives us marching orders. So really within next fiscal year, but even the fiscal year following, we need to take this plan and say, these are the things we're going to be doing. Budget will start to reflect that. And again, from the element for this body is how do we update you? Is it on a monthly basis, on a quarterly basis to say, here are the things that are going on? Some things are going to come off the list because they get accomplished or they're going to be pushed further out. I mean, that's why it is that dynamic document.
Great. Other comments?
I was just checking my notes here. And again, I appreciate all the comments you guys had. And Mayor, I look at this as if we can be a collaborator in bringing folks together on these issues, that's awesome because that's what we need. And when you look at how tourism impacts this county as a whole, it's not one part of the county. All parts of this county are getting impacted. You can tell just by, visitation numbers and people that are here is hearing what is happening out there and then how do we all work together to make this happen. Our team does one heck of a job of getting the message out and telling the stories. And we need to tell some different stories, and we're going to work on that. But there's other things that, we're going to come in and say, hey, we've got staff working on a campaign all about education of what tourism means to this community. And so for you as the TDC to be supportive of that, and maybe that's not a direction we've done the last, 5-6 years, but it's something we've got to do daily. And we got to get outside the box and thinking, of how that works. Melinda, just to your point, it may save you this in taxes. That's just one element. But here's what else it does. And there's all these things that go to it. Our good friends across the bay just released a video, about a 3.5-minute video that they did just on that topic, which I thought was very well done. They released it during National Travel and Tourism Week, but to me, National Travel and Tourism Week is every week. So again, it's telling the story and keep telling the story. And when we're tired of it, we got to tell it even more, and all in all of these different places. But again, I think again, if I could reiterate, some of the things that you saw up there today that said, hey, you need to move in this direction, we're doing that. It's just we need to amplify it even more. And you know what? It becomes a priority to go through and do X, Y, and Z, whatever that may be. But again, I'm excited. Because of this direction, Mary, I like how you put it. It's a filter so that, I've got these 3 things to do. If one of those doesn't meet something over here in the strategic plan, it falls to the bottom, and you work on the ones that are aligned with what you're trying to get done strategically. So.
Just to add to that, a couple of weeks ago, we had a meeting with the city manager of Clearwater in bringing him up to date, who Steve Hayes is and what we're doing and all. And besides the mayor that's on the board and everything, doing those things and watching out for that relationship and everything. And that may be something also that we can be looking at with other city managers or key people in other cities where the mayor and the elected officials, one person, but you can do it directly with the staff member to help reinforce the members on this board. I think maybe something to work at. Anything else? If not, Robert, outstanding report, update, and we're looking forward to the final report to take that next step, and you're prioritizing in the comments that were made here. We thank you very much, and we're looking forward to the next few years with this. Okay, thank you.
All right.
Next, we're moving around, but we're going to the budget report. Steve?
Yeah, and if I might just go back real quickly, on the resident survey, that's not a one and done survey. We're going to do that every year. And so I want to be able to show change. So again, we may add some questions to it, but it's something we want to measure every single year to see how they feel about tourism as it impacts. I just wanted to throw that out there. All right, on budget, a couple of things. We had a lengthy discussion last month. 5 hours, 6 hours. It was long. So thank you all for participating in that. We did hand out our budget sheet for FY23, and one of the items I did want to bring out to you is under operating expenses. And yesterday we received our actual cost for BTS, which handles all of our technology. And it comes under intergovernmental services. And we originally had a placeholder in for FY23, and that amount actually went up, and the total now is 1.179 million, was a 2% increase over the 22 budget. So wanted to let you know that. So impacting our total operating budget for next year, we end up at 41.9 million. And again, we went through all of the detail on that last month. The last thing I wanted to bring up is that, again, there were decision packages related to one for us as Visit St. Pete Clearwater for interns, and then the second was related to Creative Pinellas And one of the council members brought up and asked the question about how did we feel, or how did I feel about it, the requests that were there. So there were several requests, and what I want to kind of run through is, this was through Creative Pinellas. And I think, as you guys have seen through the strategic plan, I think if you have seen through some of the conversations we've had related to our marketing and our advertising, is that we're being very supportive of the arts and culture message. I think it's critical. And, in fact, this afternoon, I'm doing a presentation, historic preservation, because, again, it's another element that we have in this community that meets the culture. We've also have developed, I think, a much better relationship with Barbara and the team at Creative Pinellas. In fact, they have a series right now called We Convene, and last week? Yeah, it was last week. They did one that was specific to tourism in the arts, of which I thought was rather good. I see Doreen shaking her head yes on that, in which we had the director of the Florida Association of Museums come in and talk, and then BVK got up and talked about arts positioning. So again, very, very supportive of that. Of the decision packages that were there for Creative Pinellas, I'm suggesting that we, as this body, because I know we support it, is one, there was a cultural plan. And, in that, they were asking money from the general revenue. But I think, given that we're also going through and have just finished up strategic plan for tourism, to have us support that effort with Creative Pinellas, to have it come out of TDT to go do the cultural plan. I think that's critically important because much like we're getting a road, a pathway of where we need to go, overall tourism, I think on the cultural side, we need something for the county overall of where we need to go, whether it's from Palm Harbor down to Pass-a-Grille, from St. Pete over to Clearwater, and everything in between. The second one that was out there was a co-op program. And on this one, and I felt very comfortable with this one because it was one where Creative Pinellas would work with our arts and culture institutions to do a co-op plan. So if they created a $10,000 advertising program or something along that line, that the institutions or institution would match it equally. And so they would have a pool of $400,000 to work with. So I'm fully supportive of that because, again, I think it helps with that overall arts messaging. There are 3 additional request in there. One is for a spacecraft, which is a traveling exhibit that was actually funded through BP originally, and then to continue that program. And it really talks about arts and culture in the community, and they would utilize money from general rev there. There was a second one related to using transportation funds, and that would be to go through in any transportation related to paint murals, make our walkways and/or tunnels, et cetera, look much better. And the third involved not only TDT funds but general rev funds for the galleries that are there at Creative Pinellas. Of those 3, while I'm supportive of the items, again, it's one of those where it's a different funding source. At least in 2 of those cases, transportation and in general rev, that decision lies within the Board of County Commissioners. And as always, we're supportive of what the BCC looks at doing. And so I know that that's something that they'll go through to evaluate. But I think at least today, so that folks with Creative Pinellas and Barbara know that this body embraces the fact of the direction that we're going with arts and culture, and I think have that plan, have the marketing opportunity to go through and support that. I know Barbara is in the audience. I don't know if, Mr. Chair, if it's appropriate to have her just speak a little bit, but, again, I think given the significance of this and our efforts, just to get a couple of comments might be good.
I'll take the liberty of asking Barbara to come up for a couple minutes, please.
While she's doing that, if I can comment, I just wanted to elaborate a little bit on Steve, your last comment about the joint TDT funds and general funds about the galleries. I wanted to just point out that that's the Pinewood Center. It isn't just the gallery that Pinellas County owns that Creative Pinellas is operating, but it's the whole Pinewood Center. So it's the botanical gardens, and Barbara can speak to that effort in working with the director of the botanical gardens and the historical portion, along with the galleries, and that funding would incorporate all of that. Barbara?
Yes, thank you for that segue, because I don't have any notes, so I'm winging it here. But that segue is perfect, because this coming Saturday is our third Saturday at Pinewood. We have been building relationships. Creative Pinellas, the Florida Botanical Gardens, and Heritage Village have been building relations together for 5-6 years. We've done some projects together. Last February, we did the African American Heritage Festival. We had over 2,000 visitors on the campus that day. And the joyousness of that event will stick with me forever. Children and their parents and music, and it was just really revital. You could see that park, how it could be for the future for this county. So for third Saturdays, our first one, we have 3 food trucks and activities at Heritage Village, at the Florida Botanical Gardens, and of course at Creative Pinellas. We've been doing some research. We matched it up with the Bluxen research that VSPC provides us. About 40% of the visitors to the gallery and to the park are tourists, and about 60% are residents. So it is one of those sort of magical places that serves both of the key audiences in Pinellas County very well. And what I really like about the gallery and about Pinewood, again, thank you, Doreen, is it's really close to the beaches. You can get to Clearwater Beach in about 10, 12 minutes, and you can get to Madeira Beach or Indian Rocks in 7 or 8. One of the outcomes of the strategic plan and the work that Steve and I have been doing for some time is to bring arts and culture into the brand promise of Pinellas County. We call this county the Arts Coast. And I've heard recently that there is no community that has the depth and the density of arts and culture and the kind of beaches we have. I think HCP mentioned this, but Creative Pinellas, we call it the Goldilocks community. It's really just right in every way. So Visit St. Pete Clearwater is coming out very strongly to identify this area as an arts and cultural community. We feel that the gallery can really help support that brand promise. If somebody is staying at the beach, they can get their family, they can come to the park for free. They can see wonderful artwork, they can enjoy the gardens, and they can learn about history. Coming back to the gallery, right now we have 2 exhibits up. We have our Emerging Artists exhibit, and that is a presentation of artists that we gave grants to and then provided mentors. And they work with that mentors for about 7 months, and they create artwork that then is shown in the gallery. And it's really a wonderful program because you watch those artists really change. It's also, as one of my directors pointed out to me, it's a workforce development program because those artists learn how to be professionals. They learn how to sell, and they learn how to deal with things like their art falling off the wall, or they gave themselves 10 hours to do something and it took 20. And so it really does also function in that way. Additionally, we have an exhibit that opened up on Thursday called The Things They Left Behind. And in that exhibit, we invited the community who may have lost somebody during COVID, either from COVID or just during the COVID couple of years we've had, to bring things either that their loved one made or that was important to their loved one, or that reminds them of the loved one they lost. And we opened that on Thursday. I invite all of you to come and see it. Everyone who's walked through it has been in tears. And people have come up and thanked Creative Pinellas to provide that opportunity for us to slow down and take a minute and experience the emotions that maybe we didn't get to experience. Somebody came up to me, and I didn't know them. They threw their arms around me and said, "I said goodbye to my loved one over an iPad. Thank you so much." And that's the kind of thing that Creative Pinellas and this particular gallery can do. We're not a museum. We don't have to deal with all the issues that a museum does. Oh, I'm sorry. And we're not a gallery that is trying to drive and sell, although we do sell, and we give the artists who participate with us an opportunity to earn revenue. We also just, and I could go on forever, bad news if I don't have notes, because I don't have a stopping point, so I'll just mention one other thing. Yes, I'm going to come, thank you. We also brought $500,000 of federal money into Pinellas County. We received a $500,000 grant from the NEA that we were able to distribute to arts organizations and artists in Pinellas County, and we're wrapping up that process of that distribution right now. We were one of 26 arts organizations nationwide that received that grant. It was a very competitive grant to get. So as my wonderful board member, Doreen, reminds me, part of this was about the cultural plan. The last time Pinellas County had a cultural plan was 2005. I'm just going to remind everybody that was before the iPhone, before the iPad, before social media, and certainly before the explosion of the arts in Pinellas County. We want to be able to understand where to make the best investments in the arts. We want to deeply understand the resources that are available now, the communities that are being served, how well they're being served, and the communities that need to be served. We want to go deep and understand what's happening here so that we can make recommendations to the TDC and the BCC about how to fund for the future. So thank you so much for the support on the cultural plan and the support on the co-op advertising. That's something the community's been asking us for a long time. And I'll stop talking, but I will invite any questions that somebody might have.
Mike?
Barbara, thank you for the update. Have you shared the plan with everyone? I don't recall seeing that.
The cultural plan?
Yeah.
We want to, we're just at the beginning of it. We want to reach out to a consultant, just the same way Steve did with the strategic plan. I have been talking to consultants, and I have been getting models. I want to make sure it's really rigorous and provides us the information that we need to make good decisions moving forward. But I will take that as an invitation to keep the council updated on what we're doing with that.
And how much money typically does Creative Pinellas get from TDC?
We have $797,000, and I believe that's combined from the TDC and the general fund and transportation trust. But Jim might be able to answer that very specifically for me.
Roughly 800,000?
Yeah, and it's about 79% of our budget is from local government funding, which is very typical for arts agencies, for local arts agencies nationwide. So that's our target, to make sure that we are good stewards of the funds. And
if I may, Barbara, ask Jim to come up to just recap on these numbers for us also.
Jim Abernathy, Office of Management and Budget. Total from the county is just under $1 million. They get almost $800,000 from the TDT funds, and then I think it's about $30,000 or $35,000 from the Transportation Trust Fund, and then it's like $145,000 or $150,000 from the general fund. So they get, this current year, it's almost $1 million.
Thank you, Jim. Mike, you have more?
Just to follow up on that, so with that, I mean, certainly a significant amount of funding coming from Pinellas County, and I'm sure money well spent. Do we have oversight or scrutiny of how that's spent and how effectively it's spent as we would look back at like some of our elite events? You know, we'll do a post-mortem on it to see, did we get the ROI? Before we allocate another $1 million, is that plan not something we want to see first?
I do present the budget, and I do present reports. I have been here a number of times to tell you all what we're doing. We provide monthly reports to Visit St. Pete Clearwater, and we work very closely with the Office of Management and Budget, who holds our toes to the fire. I could also take that as an invitation to come on more often and present to you, because we're really proud of what we're doing.
Oh, absolutely.
And we do a lot of evaluation and follow-up.
Great.
Thank you for asking that question.
Steve, any comments?
Just on that, Barbara and her team are very good about asking about what research capabilities that we have that will provide insight to what's happening. And she has talked to destination analysts. And then, of course, we also measure the arts and culture visitor as a profile from there. So again, there's some good data points there. And even when it came down to the gallery and looking at, folks visiting there, we were able to pull some data that Barbara on her own wouldn't have been able to do.
Thank you, Steve. Chuck, next, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a quick one for Steve. Where do we see the $797,000 in your budget for Creative Pillows? Where would I look for that?
I believe that's under contractual services. Is that correct, Terry?
Thank you.
Any further questions, Chuck?
No, that's got me for now. I'll have a
Thank
follow-up.
you. Mayor? Ken?
So it's under other contractual services?
Yes, sir.
The 1.179? I'm looking at 1.141 million? Which section is it in?
It's under operating expense, very first line, other contractual services.
So the 1.14 million, the first line?
Yes.
Okay. My question was on just recapping what you were supporting. You're supporting the co-op at 400K and the cultural plan at 240?
Yes, sir. Yeah, and the other one, I think, again, when it looks to the campus, as I guess I'll call it that, Doreen, but which is the gallery and everything that's there. I think because there is a combination of funds between general rev and TDT, I'd love to have other feedback to say, yes, that's appropriate. Where the other two, I am like, yes, definitely, let's get that going.
Okay, and the other three, I'm looking at last month's report, was the gallery extension at 180, capacity building at 150, and then spacecraft at 175K.
That's correct.
Those are all going to the BCC for decision?
Yes.
Okay. And I guess just on Mike's point on the accountability, I absolutely agree with that. But I view us as trying to actually regain an acceptable level of support for the arts. We used to have, $5-6 million department within the county, the Arts Council that we funded. And even then, when we compared ourselves to other counties and even cities like Sarasota, we have yet to regain that. And so, in anything going forward, and my position on supporting the arts at a higher level, all that accountability, Mike, has to be built in. But I view us as trying to regain a position of competitiveness with our support of the arts. Thank you.
Thank you. Steve, comment? Thank you, Barbara.
I was
Is there any other?
actually,
Oh.
not to Barbara, but to Mayor Welsh's point, maybe there would be a real quick synopsis and an overview from the history, because we have new members that don't know how we got here. That, and certainly, Mike, understanding your question about spending and funding and the creation of Creative Pinellas, what was here before, when the funding ceased due to economic changes that happened, when Creative Pinellas came forward as conceptually the umbrella for all types of arts and culture throughout the county. And that was kind of a trial by fire, because, again, Mayor was on the commission at the time, that, we've always had to prove who we are every year. We come to the table. Certainly, the accountability has been there. But for the members who, don't know that history, I think that's important to look at. And then where we are today and your requests, and I'm assuming you're going to be talking a little bit more about the potential for a defined funding source of some sort. So those are things I think that are very important that you all don't have that history to share, that the BOC has been very mindful and wanted Creative Pinellas to prove itself. And certainly, I think as an organization with Barbara's leadership and the board, which has been ever-changing, that we have done that, and now we're at that growth stage of what can we do and how can we do it better. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else on Creative? Steve? Chuck?
I'm a big supporter of the arts. I think we all know that when it comes to this board. When we first started the discussion, when I got on the board several years ago, Steve, we were talking about the arts, and thank you. You have, in last year's budget and now this year's budget, had a defined and significant increase in dedicated advertising and marketing for the arts. Can you give us a quick, just an idea of number? How much now are we spending on arts as a destination versus what we used to?
Boy, you're putting me on the spot there. Only from
Just a minute, I'm just curious.
Only from a memory standpoint. I am going to say, because it's built into our overall plan, I'm going to say it's probably close to $1 million and a half between digital advertising as well as our traditional advertising and any of the other things that we have going on. But I am not 100% confident of that number. But I know that it's significantly up there because we have dedicated campaigns to it.
Thank you, and I appreciate those dedicated campaigns.
If I may, in terms of the history, I was not involved in Creative Pinellas in 2010, but in response to the Great Recession, I believe they went down from about $3.5 million spent for the arts in 2010 to a couple of $100,000 in 2011, 2012, through 2016. When I joined Creative Pinellas, the commitment from the county was $150,000. Doreen was talking about Creative Pinellas proving themselves. We have worked very closely with the tourism industry and with the BCC to provide programs and services that have value to residents and tourists in this community. I will share that for the NEA grant, we had
Barbara?
Do I need to stop?
May I interrupt?
I'm sorry.
I'm trying to watch the clock a little
Okay.
bit, and if we're going to be taking any votes today, I need to have a quorum.
Okay.
And so you did a great job, and I look forward to another update.
Thank
But
you.
before I lose enough members that I can't do a vote, I think it's necessary to move on if we
Thank
may,
you.
okay?
Thank you for so
Great,
graciously
you-
telling me time is up. I
Thank
appreciate
you.
it.
Any other comments? Steve, where do we need to go from here with the budget, please?
So on the budget, Mike, can I look at Michael real quick? So for
Right.
us, we're just recommending moving the budget forward. You're supportive of the direction that we're going, A, and then B, under the decision packages, you're supportive of those items that TDT would be fully funding.
Yes.
Okay. Did that sum it up?
Let's sum it up. And it looked like, Ken, you have a question or comment, please?
I do, just in terms of navigation, we had a couple of big asks at the last meeting. Mine was for $5 million for the arts moving forward. I know the arts folks have put together kind of a draft proposal for how that would be managed and allocated. Also, and Phil, I had to look down there to see if you were here today. Hadn't heard from you all day. Phil had an ask about beach nourishment, and there were some other asks. Where are we going with those items?
Going with the beach renourishment first, because I think Phil would have a little bit of an update. Just on the conversation we had with Kelly from the county yesterday. And then I think the second, if my memory served me correct from our conversation last month, is regarding a proposal about how would you fund the arts, is look at what would a plan look like. And the dollar amount, I will look to Jim from OMB to say budget process. If we're already going down this road, budget has been submitted, then if there's other things that we want to go through and do, how do we incorporate that?
There would have to be a formal request from the department to do a decision package, as you probably are familiar with. Or it could come from Commissioner Justice as a member of the TDC and as a BCC member. But right now, the budget has been submitted, and the decision packages that Steve had talked about are being discussed or in various stages of discussion. So that would be the formal process is to actually make the request. Because the budget that was submitted and put forward by you guys.
Yeah, I'm not asking for a change in the budget submission. I just want to know the navigation.
Yeah.
Because I think it started with Chuck's question about all these fund balance dollars that are growing. So just as long as we know the navigation, I'd be happy to actually put something in writing to the chair so it's there and everybody sees the request. I just wanted to make sure we understood where we were going.
And thank you for clarifying that. And again, I think even the discussion with Phil and on the beach renourishment, we're going to have a presentation next month, which I think sets the stage for more information, so we know a direction to go. And I would look for the same from arts as well.
And frankly, these are great discussions for a visioning session with the BCC, so we know where everybody's thinking before we go down that road. So, thank you.
Thanks, Jim.
When is it being voted on by the BCC? The budget?
It would be in September. I believe it's the 8th and the 22nd or somewhere around there. So it's in September where the county commissioner or the county administrator will present the budget on July 19th. And that'll have all of the departments, not just the CVB. They'll all be presented to the board on the 19th of July. Then there'll be discussions throughout the rest of the July and August. And then in September, there'll be 2 public hearings where they'll they'll move forward with the various stages of the budget and then formally adopt it in the last week or so of September. I don't remember the exact date.
There's still time for amendments to what we're submitting.
Yes.
That's my short question. Mr. Mayor, are you through with?
Yes, sir.
With beach nourishment, Steve and I did have a virtual meeting with Kelly Levy yesterday, and a couple of quick things. Spring of '23, Treasure Island and Long Key, which is St. Pete Beach, are scheduled. We've already submitted our portion, which is $8 million for Long Key, and they still have to submit approximately $6 million for Treasure Island. That is in cooperation with the Corps. The Corps has changed their requirements. Both Treasure Island and Long Key are in compliance by having enough people signing off on access to the property, their personal property that is beyond a seawall, but inside the erosion control line. That replaced the high tide mark, because that kept varying, so they came up with an erosion control line. It's beyond their seawall. That's considered private property, but they've granted access to the Corps and to the general public in those spaces. However, the estimate is approximately 45 million to do Sandkey, and that is Madeira Beach up to the Sheridan Sandkey. That was scheduled for 24. However, it's indefinite at this point because the Corps has changed their requirement. It used to be if you, a federal project, federal dollars had an indirect impact on private property, it was okay, as long as the direct impact was the main thing, that would be public beaches. They've changed that to be, I'm not sure how the wording goes, but they've changed it to be if it's indirect and it impacts private property, then the general public has to have access as well. There's an attorney in Indian Shores who is fighting this. He sent out letters to all the property owners saying, don't sign this. They're taking away your personal property. It's your private property and it shouldn't be accessed by the public. They have less than 50% who have signed the easement agreement. And it's not hopeful that it's going to come through. It's a $45 million project. Generally, federal government through the Corps takes care of 50% of that, or I'm sorry, 60%, which incidentally, that's going to 50% in 2029, and only if there's 100% of the property owner signing the access. So it's unlikely, and you know, he makes a pretty good point. I read the thing, but you know, in all practical circumstances, when you have a bigger beach, the people are going to be farther away from your property. So I don't think it's a common sense approach to it, but he's basically saying you're granting perpetually public access to your private property outside the seawall. A lot of times there's dunes there and those are protected. You can't go on those. And as I said, for the most part, if you have a bigger beach, you're going to should have less people impacting your private property. But he's pretty strong on this and he's got a lot of followers. And I think they're just assuming we're going to do it anyway, and I'm not sure we can. Now, with that in mind, you know, if the Corps doesn't change their mind and grant it this time, we're looking at a $45 million project in 2024, which probably won't happen. If we end up funding that out of our general funds, like not accurate math, I'll say, but probably pretty close. If we fund that and leverage through future programs or future nourishment fund increases past 2024, we end up maybe breaking even by 26, 27. But then the cycle is about every 6 years, and at our current pace, we're going to end up being, you know, by 2030, we could be as much as 50 million in the hole, or not be able to continue or sustain the beach nourishment. Unless the Corps changes, or unless we get these residents to change, or if the BCC decides to do it out of general funds. Point is, what we were concerned about is losing federal funding, and it looks like that may happen on our biggest stretch of beach. It's not certain. Kelly said hopefully they'll know within 3 or 4 months, but it's not looking favorable. They are taking a new policy under the new agreements and applying it to the old agreements. And she's going to get here next month to explain more. But the other things we talked about were Dunedin Causeway. She said that they've been funding that at the tune of $300,000 a year, trucking sand in, but they've got to come up with a different plan for that. The Johns Pass issue, there is $2 million in the budget that the governor hasn't signed yet, but he should be signing that hopefully in July. And that will go to take care of the problem that we're having under the Johns Pass Bridge. If it doesn't happen, the property owner in Johns Pass, DOT, and the city of Madeira Beach will team up to get it done. But we're assuming the governor's going to sign that. It's all part of the budget right now. I asked her if there's any other things that could be addressed or that we have the ability to service, and she mentioned that Gulfport asked for a beach in front of their seawall at one point, but they couldn't justify it because it didn't really affect heads and beds. It was just strictly a straight city thing, and they couldn't support that, and there wasn't much of anything else. I asked her about the passes, Johns Pass, Blind Pass, Clearwater Pass, all which, have sand coming into the bay. And he said, well, we use those for a source of sands for the beaches. So when they look like they need to be dredged, then we go in there and pull that sand out. And the Johns Pass sand that we're talking about said it is usable. They did core samples, and it will be usable to put back up on Madeira Beach. But the main point is things are changing at the federal level. If we don't have federal support, then our chances of getting state support are greatly diminished. If the Corps doesn't do their 60 or 50%, then the state doesn't come in and help us with we can apply for it, but our scoring is much lower without the federal support. So no guarantees that it's all going to go south, but it's something we definitely need to look at. We need to listen to Kelly next month, and I really think we need to increase the budget for beach nourishment to protect ourselves. As I said last month, but I've got a little more information now. I was very enlightened by our hour-and-a-half conversation, and hopefully she'll be able to do the same for you next month. All right?
Thank you, Phil. Looking at the time and everything, Steve, why don't you recap what we're looking for to have voted on today, and these other two topics that have come up, or three topics with the mayor and Phil and everything, and that, Michael, they can come back at another time and be addressed of what you're looking for, please.
So just for this morning is that, again, based on our meeting last month on the budget, we went through everything. Based on today, just in really talking about Creative Pinellas, that this body is supportive of the budget direction that we're going, so that we can get this through the process, especially as we meet with the commissioners. So A, and then B, the other element is we have two items on the table for future, which includes the increase to beach renourishment. And again, we'll get a report next month, is to be able to see what the picture really is for that. And then the second is listening to where we could go on the arts and culture side as far as funding coming back and looking at from a planning perspective.
Okay. Any comments, Michael?
The only thing I would suggest is, you may want a motion that specifically articulates the two decision packages I think that you were advancing from TDT as part of the motion.
Okay.
So the decision package on the co-op advertising and the cultural plan, and both of those were, where's my sheet? I had the dollar amount on that between the two of them. There we go.
Right.
And Steve, I believe you said that was going to be out of the CVB
Yes, out of
budget,
TDT,
not
yeah.
directly to Creative Pinellas, correct?
Yep. Well, it's for them, but we're taking out of TDT versus out of general rev. One of them, the cultural plan, originally they wanted to take it out of general rev. I'm like, no, let's take it out of TDT. I think it's appropriate in giving that direction.
Okay. Would somebody make the motion?
I would move approval as stated by staff, including the $400K for the co-op and $240K for the cultural plan out of TD funding. And also just want to state, thank you for the direction on this. I want to restate, we're not talking about new funding. We're talking about a future plan for allocating what we already have. I think that's important. So, thank you.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Doreen. Comments?
I have a question related to the other items. That would be recommendation to, excuse me, the BOC for their consideration. I mean, obviously, they're voting on all of these, but we had other items as it related to Creative Pinellas that I'd like to either amend that or make a secondary motion that those be recommendations for consideration by the BOC as well.
So on the other three, which then becomes the spacecraft, which is
Transportation
the,
funds, and then the Pinewood Cultural Center
Which, the transportation they've received in the past, correct? So it's something that's all, in other words, we've been
Already a
supporting.
budgeted,
Yeah.
okay.
And I think just for everyone, in the past, the decision package has not gone through us. It's gone directly to the BCC, so you wouldn't have seen that. I think in developing a closer relationship with Creative Pinellas is to have it coming through us, which is why you would go through and see this, at this time. So, again, from a support standpoint, do you feel there's support to, on the others that are utilizing a combination of funds, even though we don't have say over that? So that's kind of what you're asking, correct?
Yes.
I'd ask to call the question.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Oppose? It carries. And the notes also, the department reports are in file for you to check. And the next thing we have is Steve's report.
And I'm going to make this quick. Liz, can you get me the clicker, or maybe if back can click forward for me, that would be easier. There we go. Just want to hit under destination metrics, tourist development tax collections. You're not reading this wrong. The orange is 22, fiscal year 22. In the month of March, we collected 12.9 million, which we've never done before, compared to 9.7 in 2021. Year to date, we're at 47.6 million compared to 29.9. We're not even looking at 2019 anymore. 2020, don't have to look at it. So you can see where we're at, significantly up. So the magic crystal ball, once again, we have underestimated what the collections are going to be. I did want to break this out. And again, looking at OC and ADR, I'm going to skip that one. I think it's probably more important with this is to look at what makes up that change. And if you look at our ADR compared to 21, how significant it is up. Also for 20, so you can go through and see what it is there. And then in terms of the ADR in 22, we're at 223 compared to 21, we were at 164. So you can see the jump there. Even though with occupancy we're up a little bit, it's not as strong. This graphically looks at the occupancy, and you can see the last couple of months, so April and May, even though we've been reporting on March. March was flat with 21. April, we were below 21's occupancy. In May, we were below 21 occupancy. But there's your rate. And if you look at that, we're way above on each of the months. So that's going through to driving the increases that we have in TDT. Take a look at this. This looks at OC, ADR, and RevPAR. This is just hotels through STR. If you look at March of 22, the top 25 MSAs in the United States, we were second in not only occupancy, but second in ADR and RevPAR. In April, that numbers just came out, and on that one, we were seventh in occupancy, fourth in ADR and RevPAR. So we're starting to drop a little bit as we get into out of spring and winter travel. And some of the the places that were ahead of us in April in ADR and RevPAR, New York was in there. Miami's always been above that. And there was another market up in the Northeast. And under visitor profile, biggest thing that we saw in March of 22 versus 21 is a decrease in the daily spend. The decision time continues to go down. So short decision time periods, the number of days in the market was less. Otherwise, the others were statistically around the same, a statistically good number. So again, that's the visitor profile. So bottom line is on the news, again, we got to watch rate. because again, it's very high, continues to be. Occupancy is, I'm going to call it flat at this point to down a little bit. So as we move into summer and talking to some of our hotels, we're seeing some softening. I know I was talking to a couple of attractions, seeing the same thing as well. So again, that's worth watching, but through the first 6 months of the year, we're already probably halfway to 90 mil if the rest of the year was flat and no mil, which we've never, as we all know, have never hit that. So I just want to hit those. I also wanted to go through, and the last thing to bring up is last week was National Travel and Tourism Week, and there were a couple of events that happened that we participated in, but we also supported the Tampa Bay Beaches Chamber of Commerce and their tourism lunch, of which at that lunch, they recognized the Tourism Person of the Year. And of course, you always wonder who that's going to end up being. And what I couldn't believe is that this person had not been recognized prior to this. But Mr. Russ Kimball was recognized as the Tourism Person of the Year, so congratulations.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Quite an honor. Thank you very much.
I was still shocked. I was like, did I just hear that name right? But no, what an honor for him and all that he has contributed and continues to contribute to this our communities as well as the tourism industry. And with that, I know we are short on time.
Thank you. Any questions for Steve? Comments by the members? I can call for an adjournment.
Before you
that-
do,
Mayor?
just want to echo your well-deserved praise for all you've done. You've been on this board since before I was on the board the first time around, and we appreciate your guidance for us.
Thank you. I've enjoyed it. Thank you. Have a good month. Please note, the date for next month meeting is a Tuesday, the 21st. Right, Liz?
Yeah, and we're doing that because there's actually budget meetings for the commissioners, and our chair would not be able to make our meeting. And those are on Wednesday, Thursdays, and Fridays, so we went to Tuesday, the 21st, 9 o'clock, same room, just a Tuesday.